Okay, so today's Saturday. Okay, and we're going to be talking about Trump and his crashing out, and how no one can deny that those who are not in a cult, that he's basically on the Epstein files. He's on that list. Okay, people can't deny that anymore. Those of us with a working brain, those of us who understand that, you know, something's afoot, calling the supporters weaklings, all type of stuff. He's on the list, folks. He also has a $40 billion bounty on his head. So let's get into it. Hard Talks Radio, live in 4K. If you feel like donating to the Cash App, it's Hard Talk Radio 792. Hard Talk Radio 792. With that, let's get into it. Here's Trump telling people who he is. Let's get into it.
Has anyone ever heard it? The snake. It's amazing. All right, you're going to hear it now then. A legendary piece of poetry. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had just survived. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, man, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. That's what...
Who would recite some poetry like that? Knowing that you're hated by many people here in America from the things that you said, things that you've done. Hello, Madison. Who would say that? I'm just wondering who. You know, a lot of people don't like you, and you would think to yourself that you would want to gain favor with these people, win them over. Okay? But no, it seems like with anybody with a brain thinking, it seems like you're telling people that, you know, hey, I'm here to screw you over. Because you have to understand, in order for people to really vote for this man, you can't really know about how he is. Okay. Like I said, a lot of people did not know about Trump. They don't know. Many New Yorkers knew about Trump. Many New Yorkers sound the alarm bells because they've known Trump since the 80s. Many of you have parents who live in New York. Those of you who are against Trump, you have parents who could tell you stories about Trump. Okay, that he's not a good guy. All right. But a lot of people don't live in New York. So you had these red state people, Republican people from the red states and in New York State. Okay. They fell from hook, line, and sinker. They're not the new, they don't live in, they don't know him from, back in the day. Okay. He has a huge paper trail, his business deals, everything. That when he talks like this, yeah, he's a Trojan horse. Yeah, he's up to no good. But a lot of people, just because he said what they wanted to hear. Now you guys are waking up. Now you're waking up. You guys didn't want to read. He called you the poorly educated. He said so many things about you guys. So many, yeah, he is horrible, Madison. He is horrible. Okay. But people just wanted to hear, just wanted to believe him. They didn't care. Yeah, bring back segregation, Ronald Elkins. Bring back segregation. That's what he's doing. Okay? Taking away DEI. And now white women are losing their jobs. Okay? Veterans who are also under DEI lost their jobs and now losing their benefits. Yeah. Doing what you wanted him to do, right? That's what you voted for him to do, right? And he's doing what we wanted him to do, right? Veterans are suffering. People are suffering. Women are losing their jobs. Women cannot get ectopic pregnancies. I'm sorry, it's not ectopic pregnancies. They have an ectopic pregnancy and they can't get an abortion. And unless you are rich and you have political pull, because a politician, a Republican politician, Kat Cam, she was able to get an abortion because she had an ectopic pregnancy. And if she wasn't able to get it, her fallopian tubes would have exploded and she would have never been able to have children again. Okay? Because she had pull. But other women, no. All right? This is why he calls you guys the poorly educated. Why should I pay for someone else's baby? I thought you guys were pro-life. You're just pro-birth. Okay. All right. Until it happens to you. See, that was Kat Cam's problem. All right. She got pregnant, found out she has an ectopic pregnancy, and she needed to have an emergency abortion. But she was having a hard time getting it because of Trump's policies. And then when it clicked, then she started scrambling, calling the governor so she could get that emergency abortion. Then tried to blame the Democrats for it, for issues of why she couldn't get that abortion right away when it was Trump. It always has to be a situation when it happens to you guys, to you MAGAs. It has to be that way. Okay? And like you guys don't think Like, yeah, no abortion, no abortion. You guys so adamantly try to make this, a Christian nation when it was never meant to be a Christian nation. You guys don't read. You don't read you don't read the Treaty of Tripoli. And the founding fathers clearly said this is not a Christian nation, that they did not want to go through the cultural wars that went on in Europe, the religious wars. This is why they left Europe. They didn't want to go through what they were going through. Okay?
What's happening?
All right? That is why that's what it says, freedom of religion, separation of church and state. You wanted Project 2025 until it starts happening to you. Okay? This is why people have a strong hatred now of Christianity. Because you idiots, I hate to say it that way, you don't read. You don't understand why the Constitution was framed in such a way. And you just say, yeah, Trump, yeah, Trump, yeah, Trump. And you don't understand that your rights are going to be taken away. That's the thing. We are really going into a fascist society. We're really heading to that point. Well, what about the Democrats? Here's the thing with the Democrats, okay? I mean, they were godly, godly. You guys hate minorities. You hate gays, you hate lesbians. You call them a bundle of sticks. Don't talk to me about God. Don't talk to me. You stood behind a man who assaulted his wife because he had a problem with a hair transplant. He assaulted his wife, pulled patches of hair out of her head, and assaulted her. Backed a man who had crooked business deals, left after another, screwed over his workers, had human trafficking going out of his hotels, Trump Plaza. You backed this man. The information was there. You didn't care. You didn't care about the Central Park 5. Okay? He advocated for these 5 young boys to be put to death, only to find out those boys were innocent and did not commit that rape. The real rapist was Matias Reyes. And instead of Trump being a man who admits he's wrong at times, instead of apologizing, he sides with Linda Fairstein, the crooked prosecutor who put those 5 black boys in prison under the false pretenses of rape. When DNA exonerated those boys. There's nothing good and godly about this man. And you MAGA Christians wanted to back him anyway. Instead of having an outrage then, you all decided to still back this man. He is wrong. He is wrong. But once again, you'll keep going for him until you lose something personal. That's how it has to be. Nebraska, you got farmers complaining that they're losing their farms. Oh, now you see it. You see that he was taking away programs for the farms. A program that bills that Biden put in place to protect small businesses. Trump rolled that back. Now they're complaining about losing farms. This is why he called you the poorly educated to your face. You know why? Because you didn't educate yourself on his background. This is why I believe that article, he says, Trump saying, if I want to run for office, I'm going to run Republican. Because they're so dumb. All you have to say, is that you are for white supremacy, white nationalism. All you have to say that whites are abused and oppressed in this country, yet they make up 74% of this population in America, have made this country basically a white supremacist dominated country. Yet they are the ones who are oppressed. Yet they are the dominant society in America. You cannot be oppressed if you're the dominant society in America. And both sides, Democrat and Republican, are for white supremacy. You can't be oppressed. That's common sense. Malcolm X said it best. Republicans are the wolves that show their fangs to the Negro, showing them their place. Democrats play the sly fox, pretend to be the Negro's friend, but will stab them in the back in the process. Both political parties are against the Negro. And the sad thing is about you Republicans, you'll only read about the Democrats being the scumbags, but not the Republicans being the scumbags. All right? Further confusing people who are not in the know. Calls you the poorly undereducated for a reason. GOP guardians of pedophiles. Jason Nelms. Oh, man. Okay. Geez, I already showed you how I'm educated. I knew about Trump. I did my homework about him. That's why I didn't vote for him. Okay? You don't have to go to school to learn about Trump. You have a computer in your hand. Look up stuff about Trump from the 80s. Like I said, you're the poorly educated, Mike Geeks. Goodbye, Mike Geeks. Goodbye. Poorly educated. The poorly educated. All right? A lot of you are not educated. You guys are so dumb. That's it. You guys are so dumb. Melinda Jimenez, same one. Jimenez, yeah, and you're a Latino, right? How much money did you get to pay to lie? Right. Like I said, a lot of you are just poorly educated, and you're a minority too, voting for Trump. Okay? Let me play this again.
All right, you're going to hear it now then. A legendary piece of poetry. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Are you going to address the comments or just keep whining the entire time Donald Trump is a better father and man than Joe Biden? Biden's a pedophile, right? We know that. You're telling me, sir, okay, can't comment. You're telling me, sir, that you would follow in Trump's footsteps of being a father, right? So that means if you have a daughter, right, an adult daughter, you're going to tell, the world, if you were on The View, right? Let me put it, you would go and have your family around you and say, you know what? If she wasn't my daughter, I'd sleep with her. Is that what you're going to do, sir? So what you're telling me, sir, is when your daughter was 10 years old, you would say, I'm going to date her in 10 years, right? Right? Trump is such a good father, right? Huh? Or how about when he saw Paris Hilton's sex tape? That was a good father moment, right? That was a good father moment, right? When he knew Paris Hilton, and as a little girl, and then seeing her sex tape, That's father of the year, right? Can't comment. Come on now. That's father of the year, right? That is father of the year. Don't be shy. You see, we're seeing now why you guys voted for Trump. Can't comment's a pedophile. Trump's a pedophile. Pedophiles back pedophiles. Okay, we're seeing that now.
Thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had just survived. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, man, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman. And you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. That's what's happening to our country.
Okay. He's talking about him being the snake, and you all still don't get it. Still don't get it.
It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Randy's characters and Comey before.
And now Trump is flat out telling his supporters, if you don't believe the Epstein files are a hoax, then well, you're an idiot who was quote bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and
It's about immigration. That's what he says. Okay? But he's the snake. Okay? He is a snake. Keep making those lies. All right? Keep making up those lies. He is the snake. Michael, this is not a pro-Trump's stream. It's not. People are going to pay a very dear price when it comes to these tariffs. Things are getting more expensive. You notice things are getting more expensive under Trump? You notice that? And many of you think that he's going to bring back companies that American companies that left to go overseas. All right? And labor's cheap over there. You think they're going to come back here with Trump raising tariffs? No. No. Let's play this again.
I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Randy's characters and Comey before.
And now Trump is flat out telling his supporters, if you don't believe the Epstein files are a hoax, then well, you're an idiot who was quote bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker.
It's a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
Now on your screen right now are the supposed fools who fell into the net. They include the Vice President, Attorney General, the Director and Deputy Director of the FBI.
Yep. Bongino, Cash Patel, Pam Bondi, J.D. Vance. Okay. This was the guy who has the Acre Trader website. And he was taking the farmland that belonged to MAGA supporters and giving them to white South Africans. Hope you guys are okay with that. Your farmlands being given away, all right? And given to foreigners because they're white. You all are okay with that. And he lied about that genocide. Lied about that. Put a video of graves, and those graves weren't even okay, South African graves. That was in the Congo. He lied. Pam Bondi says the Jeffrey Epstein list, the files were on her desk, then says the files are not there. There is no Epstein files. Okay? They even went to say that Jeffrey Epstein don't exist. Dan Bongino should have known better. Okay? You trusted Trump with the pandemic, with the witches brew, and then you were complaining on Rumble of the side effects, the witches brew, and you side with Trump anyway. Thinking he was an honest man, you were going to bring truth and justice to the American people. Okay, these are people who didn't take a look at Trump's history. If they did, and they truly were for American people, they would have never, ever wanted to join the Trump administration. They would have paid attention to the first administration and like, oh, heck no, I'm not joining this. I don't want to commit career suicide. Hold on one second right here. Oh, do you support women, men in women's dresses? No, I don't. Okay? I do not. But you have to understand something. All right? The pedophilia and degeneracy runs in both parties. I don't know what to tell you. Okay? You have Republicans getting caught in pedophilia. You got Democrats getting caught in pedophilia. Okay? This is what you're not understanding. If you understood that, then you would be like, okay. Especially the fact, you see, and a lot of you people try to be Christians, right? And you guys don't read your Bible. You don't read, period. That's what I'm understanding. You don't read, period. Okay? Because if you did, you would understand that your Lord and Savior said, my kingdom is not of this world. And that you're pilgrims passing through. This is just reading, okay? I'm not pushing religion down a person's throat. It's reading. And you read the Constitution, you understand that America is not a Christian country. The state religion is not Christianity. And a lot of you will come up and say this dumb stuff, in God but it's because in God we trust. Let me ask you something. If it says the God we trust, the Christian, if it says the biblical God and God we trust, why would it have an all-seeing eye and a pyramid in the back of it? Those are masonry symbols. Like I said, you're poorly educated. Okay? In God we trust. Which God is that? It can't be the God of the Bible because the government sends its military to destabilize countries, okay, and take other countries' resources and put sanctions on them to make them dirt poor while lining the pockets of the corrupt and the corrupt elite. This can't be, a Christian nation if you still got segregation going on here. You guys don't want to look at history. You don't want to look at nothing. The reality is, for you people, you voted for him because he promised you to have a white ethno state. A white ethno state is what you're gunning for. That's it. You like Project 2025. After Trump won, you guys admitted that, yeah, we know about Project 2025 and we don't care. Okay? That's it. I'm not a child, sir. I pretty much know the history, enough to understand what I'm talking about. To understand that you guys think this is a Christian nation, all right? Yet Trump is robbing you blind, okay? He had a white South African, okay, taking your personal data, stealing your personal data, shutting down government agencies because they were investigating Starlink, okay? He shut down those agencies that could have helped with this Texas floods, all right? Especially with air traffic control. I'm uneducated, right? I'm the one that's uneducated, right? You trusted somebody, okay, that helped out a neo-Nazi nation, Ukraine. Don't talk to me. You trust Elon Musk. Yet Elon Musk doesn't give a damn about you. He's only caring because the big, beautiful bill was stepping on his electric vehicle projects. Stop with the madness. Miss me with the nonsense, sir. Okay? You guys were so hard up for, America. You didn't care about farmers. You didn't care about farm. You didn't even care about the food that was going to come on your plate. You saying America, America, America. But you didn't even care about the food that goes in your kids' mouths. You didn't care about those farmers, but you say America first. That's the thing. Yeah, Democrats are corrupt. But did they have policies that were helping farmers keep their farms? That is the question. The answer is yes. And you voted for somebody, you sided with somebody who had a history, okay, of being horrible when it came to business. Horrible in business, human beings, and women. And you're the party of traditional values too. I thought you guys protect women. We're seeing that's not true. You're just as bad as the Democrats. Okay? Just as bad. You'll rail against the Democrats. When it's Republicans, you'll say, oh, yeah, we don't know the true story. We don't know. Come on now. The reality is the policies. Do those policies work in your best interest when it comes to your farms and your businesses? That's the thing. But you guys you just proved with this election, that's why I'm happy Trump won, because it shows the Republican side, you don't give a damn about family, you don't give a damn about traditional values, you don't give a damn about women. That's the thing. You do not care.
Senator Dick Durbin.
Durbin says his office has received concerning information from the FBI. Our Pierce Schutz breaks it all down.
Senator Durbin claims his office was told that the FBI was pressured to...
That's the thing. You guys think, the likes. I'm going to take away the likes. Sir, I work for a living. Okay? That's the thing. You're not hurting anyone here. You're not. Sorry, you must be talking about your own women in your family, sir. I don't need an EBT card, Matt. Okay? Most of you racist whites are on welfare. Okay? Nice try, Matt. Nice try. All lives matter, right, Matt? But you're saying this crap. All right? None of you would say this stuff to black people to their face in public. You wouldn't. Because you know what would happen to you. You know what would happen to you. Just a bunch of cowards behind keyboards. You wouldn't say that because most of you would get rocked and then complain, see, they're violent. See, they're violent. No. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences.
To scrub through
Epstein-related documents and to, quote, flag any mentions of President Trump. In a letter to FBI Director...
Whoa. Let's play this again.
It's coming from Senator Dick Durbin.
Durbin says
Related to the president and Jeffrey Epstein. It's coming from Senator Dick Durbin.
Durbin says his office has received concerning information from the FBI. Our Piers Schutz breaks it all down.
Senator Durbin claims his office was told that the FBI was pressured to scrub through volumes of Epstein-related documents and to, quote, flag any mentions of President Trump.
I thought he's not on the list. All right.
In a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel, Durbin states U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi pressured the FBI to find 1,000 people to scroll through 100,000 Epstein records. Quote, my office was told these personnel were instructed to flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned. This comes as President Trump posted on social media that he's asked Bondi to produce pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. Legal experts tell us the focus on testimony would limit the scope of what gets produced, as it could exclude any other related evidence. Today, Durbin says Congress and the Trump administration could simply order all the records released, but they haven't.
I think there should be a full disclosure of the materials on Epstein. Statements by the Attorney General that she had all the issues and reviews on her desk for her to take a look at were kind of a promise to the American people that something was coming, and nothing has come out of it.
Republicans have been split over messaging on the Epstein affair. Close ally, House Speaker Mike Johnson, says he believes the president wants to be transparent.
He's been very clear that he wants all credible information, credible evidence to be turned over to the people so that the people can decide.
But Durbin says administration officials like Bondi and Patel have fallen short of the promises they made to their own base.
I think some of the things that have been said have been overblown and part of a conspiracy theory that is not going to hold up. But let's decide once we see all the materials.
And we asked an FBI spokesperson for reaction. We received the message saying, quote, the FBI has no comment. Reporting from...
No comment, huh?
President J.D. Vance is demanding tonight. J.D. Vance, the person who would move up to the presidency, if this issue becomes so difficult that it drives Donald Trump out of the presidency through impeachment or resignation. We have seen this happen to a president before, and Donald Trump has never been weaker. And J.D. Vance of all people, is saying, show us the letter, demanding to see the letter. Donald Trump did not dare to say, where is the letter, in his social media post tonight, which occurred 40 minutes after J.D. Vance's social media post tonight. Donald Trump is not asking to see that letter. Donald Trump doesn't want you to see that letter. Orders for the release of that letter, that could do more damage to Donald Trump than anything that has ever happened to Donald Trump in his entire political...
You know, this kind of reminds me? Kind of reminds me of Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton tried to deny he had relations with Monica Lewinsky, and there was evidence of what happened between Monica and Bill on Monica's dress. Eventually, Bill Clinton got impeached. So maybe that's what's going to that could possibly happen. Maybe. I said maybe, because the Democrats were dragging their feet when it came to voting for impeachment of Trump.
Career, and it's J.D. Vance who's doing this. Once again tonight in Donald Trump's public comments about Jeffrey Epstein, who he used to call a terrific guy, Donald Trump portrayed himself as a victim and only himself. In Donald Trump's mind, he's the only victim in this story, and as usual, he does not have one word of sympathy tonight to offer Jeffrey Epstein's real victims. And I'm going to read to you the words of just one of Jeffrey Epstein's 14-year-old victims from an interview she gave in 2019 after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested by then the Trump Justice Department during the Trump presidency, which is when the Epstein files were created. I will not mention...
Robert Browning Trump is doing what he can to help this country. Losing farms, right? That's helping the country. Possibly dealing with a food shortage soon. Possibly. That helps the country. So let's look at CBS canceling Steve Colbert.
You all are talking about, but everybody I talk to is talking about what Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about. So let's talk about it. It being the conspiracy surrounding his old dancing buddy, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, before he was, reelected, and recently, since they all got into office, a bunch of high-ranking people in Trump's administration have kept promising to release the files surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, his mysterious clients, and his suspicious death. But now, suddenly, for reasons that I legally cannot think of, Donald Trump seems desperate to stop us from knowing who Jeffrey Epstein's clients were. In fact, yesterday, he said he was surprised anyone even cares about the guy.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
And CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's show after he calls out President Trump's relationship with Epstein. So they're protecting pedophiles too. Wow.
That sentence was never a big factor in terms of word. He went on.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
Yes. No, he's right. The Epstein saga is a total snooze fest. I mean, the most powerful man in the world is blocking information about a cabal of the rich, the famous, and the royal, befriending a con man who regularly flies off in his private plane to his private island to do super illegal sex stuff. Then the con man is arrested. People are afraid he's going to name names, but before he can, he mysteriously dies right after being taken off a suicide watch in a federal prison during the administration of the guy who is blocking the release of the information. Boring.
And yet, MAGA can't see an issue with this. They can't see an issue with this at all. They really can't. All right, so we're going to Piers Morgan Uncensored. He said that he stopped hanging out with Donald Trump when he realized Trump was a crook. Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, reveals the convicted pedophiles had severed ties with former president. Let's get into this right now.
That he stopped hanging out with Donald Trump when he realized.
What information do you think he had on Donald Trump, for example, that could have disqualified
I
him
don't
from
know
that
any
election?
specific information. I don't know any specific information, but I've also heard Jeffrey say that he stopped hanging out with Donald Trump when he realized Trump was a crook. That's on tape. I heard a videotape interview with Jeff, and he said that he stopped hanging out with Donald Trump when he realized Trump was a crook.
And Trump is a crook. He has a history of, I just said, he's history of screwing over contractors, a history of, when the contractors wanted to sue, he would just sue back. It would just be a tit for tat until the contractors got tired of going to court, and, they'd leave Trump alone. They couldn't get their money out of Trump after they did a job for him. Okay? Jeffrey Epstein's brother thinks it's possible that Trump could have been involved in the cover-up of his brother's death, that his brother had dirt on him.
Or Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein told you.
But then there's the file of the murder. Okay,
Right.
The Justice Department report is filled with inaccuracies, and it's obviously a cover-up. So was Trump involved with that? A lot of people think that, and they tell me they think that Trump had Jeffrey killed to shut him up. Because I do know Jeffrey had dirt on Trump. I don't know what he knew, but he told me he had dirt on Trump.
So your
and
brother.
the Justice Department cover it up. Who else can do something like that?
What can you tell us about that? So you're saying, Mark, that you've had conversations with your late brother Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein told you that he, quote, had dirt on Donald Trump. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I've already said in the past that in the 2016 election, Jeffrey said that if he said what he knew about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election.
Wow. Do you believe that was illegal activity that he had?
I don't know what it was, but it was enough that Jeffrey thought they'd have to cancel the election.
Do you?
Like I don't know. I don't know what the information was, but Jeffrey wouldn't say something like that to me unless he had information that would be damaging.
So, Mark, do you believe that information that your brother Jeffrey told you that he had on Donald Trump could be the reason why your brother is not alive today?
Yes, I believe that.
Wow. That's so. What Elon Musk said, it's fair to say that you think there could be a lot of relevance. Do you think Elon Musk knows something that the general public does not know?
I think so. I don't know why else he would come out with a statement like that.
Both parties are crooked, even though I would think, me personally, I think he's still alive. I think Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. I really do. Okay.
Kidding me? Come on, man. It gives me the impression that you're trying to say he's covering up for Trump, is what you're saying.
Well, a lot of people have suggested that that's who ordered the hit. He said that if he said what he knew about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election. There'd be a revolution in this country.
Did you ever go to the island? Did he ever take you to the island?
No, I was on that island once. It would have been the highest bail ever in the United States.
What was the number?
Well, the highest bail at that point in time was $100 million.
So you guys were willing to put up more than $100 million bail?
Yeah.
It's hard to make six figures. It's hard to make $1 million. $600-700 million. How do you make that kind of money?
He made good investments.
Come on, Mark. You don't give me naive vibes at all. If Israel had access to that information, how much influence would they have to be able to get U.S. politicians to do for Israel what Israel wants to be done for them?
And if they had it, they would have influence. I just want to find out who had my brother killed.
And I want to find out why.
Okay. We could work together.
So this is the first time I've ever done an interview where Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, after the interview is done, which is an hour and 45 minutes, I think most, there's no way in the world, the price of getting any dirt on Trump today has got to be the highest price that people are willing to pay today. So for me, when I think about, is Bill hiding that from him? I don't know. By the way, let's continue. A few other things you said.
I mean, if I could just address that.
Please go for it.
If this is the case,
right,
that would be classified information. Okay, so Bill Barr would then be guilty of divulging classified information. So maybe he wouldn't want to take that risk. And I don't think he's looking for a financial payout.
I don't think it's a financial payout.
Yeah, I don't want to go into this one with this. I don't. Change my mind. Okay? When it comes to this, let's keep it moving. I don't want this to drag on. So let's get into the letter about that Trump sent Epstein. That the Wall Street Journal has published.
You know, I don't have that much pull, but this morning I asked everyone to keep the pressure on with this whole Epstein file thing because it's finally making a dent into MAGA, which is not an easy thing to do because they're a full-blown cult. But now I just hear that Elon Musk has been hammering Trump again on his X platform about the whole Epstein file thing, hammering him. And now I just reposted my buddy, Aaron Parnas, who showed a letter that the Wall Street Journal just published that Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday. And in this letter, Trump draws a little cartoon character of a woman, a naked woman, and where her private parts would be, he signs his name. And then he talks about, in this birthday letter, about this secret that they both have. And I think we know what that secret is all about. So keep the pressure up. It's finally working.
Yeah, for those of us in the know, Don't let this go. Do not let this go when it comes to Trump and the Epstein files. Put pressure on him. He's not willing to release the list. Okay, the whole list, not just the Democrats. Everyone, keep your foot on Trump's neck till he releases that list. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the victims.
Well, as the world now knows, the breaking news of the night is that Donald Trump is sinking deeper and deeper into the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, with reporting from the Wall Street Journal tonight describing a birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein on the occasion of Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday. The Wall Street Journal says the letter bears Trump's name. And that letter's final line says, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." And Donald Trump's latest panic response to what is now a fully out of control situation for the Trump administration is a post on social media within the last hour saying, "I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval." It is entirely possible that the court will not approve the release of any of the grand jury testimony in the case, because Jeffrey Epstein's co-defendant and convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, is still an active litigant in the case, appealing her conviction, and the grand jury testimony was used in the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell. If she's successful in that appeal, she could have a retrial that could include some of that grand jury material. A judge might want to protect all of that. And the Epstein files that people want to see, that Trump supporters have demanded to see for years, include much, much more than grand jury testimony. It includes FBI reports, FBI notes, prosecutors' notes, endless streams of paper far beyond just grand jury transcripts. And the Attorney General knows that. And that's why Pam Bondi responded to Donald Trump on social media saying, quote, "President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts." And that won't do it. That will not quiet the revolt in Trump world about this. Because with the publication,
they're trying to throw bones now. That's not going to happen. They want the whole thing. Don't give me the chicken bone. Give me the whole chicken. Don't give me the chicken leg. Give me the whole chicken. The base wants the whole chicken. Both Democrats. Trump should have stayed out of politics. To avoid this mess, he should have stayed out of politics. He really should have. With this type of attachment, he should have stayed out of politics. You came in there, you know you had ties with Epstein. You know you had involvement. You lied to the people and said you're going to release it. Time comes, oh, I don't want to release it. Okay? You're calling people idiots. You're calling your base idiots. I don't know why they're really offended now, because he said you guys are poorly educated. All right? And the way you guys are acting in my comment section, you MAGAs, it's true. It's true. Okay? Some of the states, some of the red states you guys are in, very poor literacy rate. Okay? And you guys still vote Republican. And they haven't done much for your states. States are poor, so that means there's a lot of crime where you guys are at, too. Don't tell me there isn't. Then you guys have the nerve to try and talk about black people. Oh, they're the 13%. They commit the most crimes. No. We make up the 57% of us are exonerated. Do you know what exonerated means? It means the fact falsely in prison, and then they got to be let out. Okay? You want to talk bad about blacks and all this stuff when it comes out, when it comes to crime, you know, domestic violence, child trafficking, okay? grape of women, assaults of women. You guys are the ones that are leading. Okay? In welfare, you guys are the ones that are leading. Okay? Majority of white people are on welfare. Public assistance, Section 8. You could look up the stats for yourself. All right? Many of you are crying on social media that you're going to lose your Section 8. The reality is that it's going to be the fact that you can't just get on there and stay on there forever. You have a 2-year break to get your lives together and get off Section 8. That's what it is. But still, you guys are howling over that because majority of you are freeloaders. All right? That's just the truth. But you want to talk about black people? Okay. Lyndon B. Johnson did a real work on you guys, thinking, the poor white guy, the poor white person is better than the poor black person. Both of you all are poor. That's why these Republicans come to you guys. Because, you boomers as well take your money, tell you whatever you want to hear, and don't really give any much promises in return. That's the thing. But you want to talk about the 13%, 14%. Okay? But you guys that are in these southern states, it's like you guys never recovered from the Civil War. And I don't really feel bad about that because you guys, really didn't want to. You fought for the right to have other people do the work for you because of the color of their skin. That's basically what it was. That's why you guys voted for Trump so badly, holding those Confederate flags, some were holding Nazi flags. Okay? So it's about. You want those golden eras back where you were on top, off the backs of blacks. That's what you wanted. That's basically what it is. That's just all it's about. Then you want to say blacks are lazy? When blacks built the country? Blacks built the White House. The White House. As slaves, they built the White House. And racist whites haven't built a damn thing unless they had to put a gun to a black person's head to do it. You didn't build it with your own bare hands. Black people had to do that. And if you're white and you're not racist, you shouldn't feel offended. You shouldn't. Because this mentality that America has, it falls on you. And you're not a racist, but you have to deal with this. You have to deal with blacks being hostile towards you. Some blacks are. You have to deal with the way things are. You probably deal with them in your own family. Hearing this nonsense. You dare speak up, you're getting backlash. Because you're the only human being in the room who knows it's wrong to be out in public saying that all lives matter, but behind closed doors, you know damn well it's not the case. And get real mad when blacks and minorities point that out and try to say we're racist. Give me a break. I feel bad for you. I really do. I mean, white people in this country who actually wanted to abolish slavery, they lost their inheritance. They were even deleted, all because they knew it was wrong. Sad. Okay. And for you blacks out there, some of you, in the Republican base, you swear you want to be white. Let me tell you something. No, you don't. And this is no offense to white people. It's not. But the fact you're going to be raised with a psychotic nature, the fact that you feel entitled over another human being, okay? That's the thing. You don't want that psychosis to think you're better than a human being, all because they're born of a different skin color. And you feel justified in any atrocity because you're white. And you want to say that you've brought civilization to the world when that was a lie. People were civilized way before you even entered their countries. And that's a battle that, I don't think you would want. Being a white person, you find out the truth, you're not racist anymore, or you just had the inkling that you don't want to be racist. You find it to be stupid to be racist. You find that, it's expensive to be racist and people pay for it in the end. Everybody suffers. And you don't want to have a thinking brain and in a family of people that want to behave like demons. And then cry racism, want to cry reverse racism, and wonder why there are black people that don't like you. But you know why, and you get off on that. You get off on that. A Matrix? It's kind of what it would be like. That's what I think, being a white person. You wake up, you take the red pill, awareness, and you're like, whoa, this is racist. Whoa, they lied to me in high school. They lied to me about American history. Man, black history, what happened to blacks in America is American history. Why can't we teach this? Why not? No, we're not shaming making white people feel bad. This is history. This is the only way to cure this racial tension in this country. Why are we doing this? And then when you said, that's when the Agent Smiths come after you. Okay? Probably your mother, your father, your relatives, even the people at your church will come after you and get mad at you because they don't want to ruin the status quo. Never mind that it's tearing the country apart. And the powers that be are using it to manipulate people and cause division.
Of that story by the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump has now sunk to the lowest point in his presidency because this story, and only this story, has separated Donald Trump from some of his most fervent and frenzied supporters in the past, who are now in a frenzy of outrage about Donald Trump blocking the release of the Epstein files, which, according to the Wall Street Journal, contained that birthday message bearing Trump's name to Jeffrey Epstein. In 2003, when Jeffrey Epstein was, according to criminal evidence developed years later, routinely raping children, especially 14-year-old girls, which was apparently the target age for Jeffrey Epstein in the selection of his victims, that's when this letter was addressed to a child rapist bearing Donald Trump's name that said, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." In the middle of what we now know was Jeffrey Epstein's dedicated pursuit of child rape victims. That was Jeffrey Epstein's biggest secret at the time. We don't know what the secret the letter is referring to. We don't know if Donald Trump knew that Jeffrey Epstein was an unrelenting predatory child rapist at the time that Donald Trump was friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, to the point that Jeffrey Epstein described Donald Trump then as his closest friend. You know how much trouble a politician is in when stories like this break? Not that there's ever been a story like this, but when scandals break, you know how much trouble a politician's in by the reactions to the story. There are several people mentioned in the Wall Street Journal report. Donald Trump is just one of them. Other people mentioned in that report include Jeffrey Epstein's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, and Jeffrey Epstein's largest financial benefactor, billionaire Leslie Wexner. No one mentioned in the Wall Street Journal report tonight disputes anything in the report except Donald Trump. There is a letter in that same collection of birthday letters from Alan Dershowitz and another one from Leslie Wexner. When reached by the Wall Street Journal, Alan Dershowitz said, quote, "It's been a long time and I don't recall the content of what I may have written." Billionaire Leslie Wexner, quote, declined to comment through a spokesman. So no dispute from them about the reporting on them and their birthday letters to Jeffrey Epstein, reporting by the Wall Street Journal tonight. The Wall Street Journal reports about the documents, which NBC News has not independently verified. Ghislaine Maxwell's collected letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's other associates for a 2003 birthday album, according to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Pages from the leather-bound album, assembled before Epstein was first arrested in 2006, are among the documents examined by Justice Department officials who investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago, according to people who have reviewed the pages. It's unclear if any of the pages are part of the Trump administration's recent review. The Justice Department, run by Donald Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi, has control of the entirety of the Epstein files, including the Epstein birthday material quoted by the Wall Street Journal. The Justice Department officials didn't respond to requests for comment or address questions about whether the Trump page and other pages of the birthday album were part of the agency's recent documents review. The FBI declined to comment. So the Justice Department does not dispute one word of the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight. The FBI does not dispute one word of the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight, not one word. In Alan Dershowitz's birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein, he made a joke about Bill Clinton. The Wall Street Journal report tonight says, quote, Trump, along with others, including Clinton, also appeared several times on flight logs for Epstein's private jet. A spokesman for Clinton
I thought he was innocent. I thought Trump was innocent. I did mention that there was trafficking going on in Trump Plaza years back, right? I did mention that. I did mention in my previous videos about John Casablancas, okay, who's also a PDF file. All right. At this point, folks, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say. The FBI doesn't even want to comment. I don't know what to tell you. You still defend Trump. You still think he's doing good for the country. At this point, you don't care if he's a pedophile. You don't care.
Referred to a 2019 statement that former President Clinton had cut off ties more than a decade before Epstein's second arrest and didn't know about Epstein's alleged crimes. So Bill Clinton, another person mentioned in the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight, does not dispute a word of the Wall Street Journal reporting. The only person mentioned of the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight who is disputing that reporting is Donald Trump. Here is the Wall Street Journal's description of that birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is bawdy, like others in the album. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breasts, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. The letter concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." In an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story," he said. "I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women," he said. "It's not my language. It's not my words." He told the Journal he was preparing to file a lawsuit if it published an article. "I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else," he said. The Journal offered a full description of the birthday letter without reproducing a copy of the birthday letter in their reporting. Inside, the reporting says, inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person. Voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything, the note began. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald. A pal is a one.
What the hell is this? What the hell? What are you writing? A love letter to each other? Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. The year before that 2003 letter was written, Donald Trump supplied this quote to New York Magazine for a profile of Jeffrey Epstein. I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. His social life led to criminal charges in Florida, for which he made a sweetheart deal with Florida prosecutors, and then years later, federal charges of sex trafficking in New York, which led to Jeffrey Epstein's death in federal prison.
I've seen photos of Jeffrey Epstein with those type of females, and they were young. Okay, they were young. All right, very disturbing pictures. Okay, I can't. There's not words to describe it. They're not words. There's not enough words to describe. Let's keep going.
I do 4K.
That did that. Like, I thought there was a.
This is Katie Johnson now.
I guess I kind of held him, like, I pushed him away, and I said, you know, I'm, because at that point in time, I still believed that there was models, and then there was the girls that did that. Like, I thought there was a separate.
Let's put it all the way back a bit. Okay, here we go. We're good.
And I told him, you know, I told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there. And he basically said, well, you'll do, you know, I'm sure that you'll fit pretty nicely here. And then he tried to basically slip himself inside of me. And I pushed him away, and I said, you know, I'm because at that point in time, I still believed that there was models, and then there was the girls that did that. Like, I thought there was a separation. So, you know, I told him that I wasn't interested in that, but he said that I would do. I don't know, there was something about him that I guess I kind of held him, like, I held a lot of resentment towards him. By that time that happened, I kind of already started catching on that maybe I wasn't there for modeling, and maybe I was just getting used for things, and I felt that I kind of held him responsible. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. And at first, I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first party, and I didn't think that was my responsibility. But my recruiter told me that I needed to do it, so I agreed to. And then he, you know, I began to
sorry, this is a little difficult, but before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, you need to use a glove. And the recruiter ran over and handed me a glove and said, no one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove. So I needed to use a glove. I gave him a hand job, and then immediately after, he had an orgasm, he left, and I didn't see him again at that party.
And unprotected sex, etc. So, and he's germaphobe. I mean, Donald Trump wouldn't shake your hand. He does it now because he has to as a candidate or president. But back in the 70s and 80s, if he went to shake Donald Trump's hand, he would pull it back. He would always have the hand wash with him, to wash his hands.
Donald Trump knew that I was 13 because the first night that I was there, Tiffany actually suggested that she had a whole bunch of different wigs, and I expressed interest in them. I always told her that I would love to walk around with blue hair, and so I tried some on, and there was a blonde wig that she said that looked great on me. So I wore that wig, and Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter, and she said, well, she's 13 as well.
Yeah, this guy's sick, and I wouldn't put it past the fact that he abused his own daughter. I would not put it past Donald Trump if he abused his own daughter. You want this person to look like your daughter. This is a Law and Order TV script in the making. This is inspiration. This is material for it. Okay? I'm hearing the Law and Order Special Victims Unit theme song in the background, just hearing these details. Dum 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 dum. Because this right here it's tragic, it's horrible, it's sickening. Hearing these details, and I'm like, wow. Just wow. And people still wanted to back this guy. Okay. People want to back him. Hearing this stuff, hearing Katie Johnson's story on this, it should make you be like, I am not voting for Trump. Not doing it. He can't give a straight answer. He can't come up and just be like, you know what, I didn't do this. He can't show the files. Okay, we know you're guilty.
So he knew the first time that he saw me, but
yeah, and I already blocked the guy who said Trump is a father figure, is a good father figure, more than Biden. All right, we know Biden's a pedophile. And I can't believe that guy said that. I blocked him. I had to. I can't believe he said that. You want to compare Trump to being the father of the year? To be a role model? After the things he said about his own daughter? And you've seen what Trump has done to this woman, to this young woman who was once 13.
He took a liking to me because I look like his daughter.
Yeah, Kim, I saw that. Yeah, it's disturbing. It's really disturbing. Trump told Stormy Daniels, you remind me of Ivanka right before sex. I don't get how a woman could sleep with Donald Trump. You slept with that old man. I don't, and his nasty ways. All right. After knowing who he is. But in those circles, women will flock to power. You know, they will flock to power. If they really don't have any morals, they will flock to power. They don't give a damn about that person's identity. They just care that he has money. They'll be taken care of. And the fact that you could dissociate that and still breed kids with that person, that's something, man. That is something. Let's keep going.
That is nasty. That is, I mean, look, I've even seen there have been pictures. You could look at them online with him and Ivanka, and it's really, really, you know, it's really questionable about Donald Trump and his relations with his daughter. It's really sick.
There wasn't, out of all the girls that were there with me, most of them were 13.
Veronica Fox, you don't know power. Who's stupid? Who doesn't know power? Veronica, who doesn't know power? I'd like to know. Because that's why Stormy Daniels slept with him. To get that check. And now she can do interviews talking about Trump. All right? It's not really a flex sleeping with somebody like that. And you're a porn star.
14. I think the oldest one might have been 16, just turned 16. I mean, she'd been there for a while. Second time that I saw Mr. Trump was same scenario. He was onlooking at an orgy, and Tiffany came over to me and said that Donald Trump had requested that I perform oral sex on him. And I'd never done something like that with anybody, so I was a little nervous. So I walked up to him, and he was standing there very proud, and I just kind of moved in that direction, and he kind of slapped me away and said, "What are you doing? You know, you need to put a condom on," like I was some, dirty filth or something without a condom. Tiffany ran over and handed him a condom and apologized, profusely, and said that would never happen again. And she looked at me and scolded me basically like a child and said that, that's not how, Donald Trump always, anytime you touch his penis, it needs to have a condom on or a glove, and especially when it comes to performing oral sex. So I apologized, and then I performed oral sex on him. So again, once he was done, he hopped up, and that's the last I saw of him at that party. It's like, once he's done, he's out. Mm-hmm. So, the only time that he tried to give me some money was our last encounter together, where he acted out a rape fantasy. I was forced to give that money back because Jeffrey Epstein paid us after the party. So of his penis being directly related to his mole, or I'm not too familiar with the Jewish tradition, so it's towards Mr. Epstein about being Jewish, and called him a Jew bastard, so that he was cheap, and there was some words I didn't even understand, something about his the shape of his penis being directly related to his mole, or I'm not too familiar with the the Jewish tradition, so we were to report to Mr. Epstein and basically tell him everything that happened, with who, what they liked, what they disliked, if there was any requests, if there was any talk about anything. That's what we told Mr. Epstein everything. And then he paid us, and then we got to go home.
It's not just Virginia Roberts saying the same things as Katie Johnson. In 2018, Stormy Daniels also said Trump told her that she reminded him of his daughter before sex. And Trump's lawyer at the time, Michael Cohen, admitted that they paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 to try and shut her up.
I was involved in several of these catch and kill episodes. He asked me to pay off an adult film star with whom he had an affair. He was concerned with the effect that it had had on the campaign. He had told me that he had spoken to a couple of friends, and it's $130,000. It's not a lot of money, and we should do it.
He liked Trump. Michael liked Trump, but he don't like him enough to go through that.
92% of people
Hold
who
on
have
one
tingling
second.
or numbness in
And that's the big question. How much time could Michael Cohen face? Since we were quoting I'm a Hustler, I'm going to go ahead and put it on again. The big issue here is the Bank Fraud Act, which could carry up to 30 years in prison for Cohen. That's a lot of pressure.
I have to agree with 50. Cohen likes Trump, but not enough to do 30 years for him. He flipped and got a deal where he only served 3 years in a luxurious Jewish prison in New York, where he has all the food he wants, synagogue services, and he's surrounded by his fellow Jewish mobsters, so he has no fear for his safety, as most prisoners would.
You know, when you think of prison, you get pictures in your mind of all those old movies with rows and rows.
Michael Cohen, the minute he hears about this Trump situation, he should have bailed. But I don't get it. I'm trying to think Trump is some sort of satanic high priest. I really do think about that. Because there's an article talking about MAGA, and MAGA is the title, a title that is the very highest title within Satanism. And I think maybe he's some sort of satanic high priest. I really do think that. I think that. There's no other way to see how people are just Google-eyeing over Trump and letting him get away with what he wants. Let him do whatever he wants.
Of guys behind bars, but it wasn't like that for wise guys. It really wasn't that bad, except that I missed Jimmy. He was doing his time in Atlanta. I mean, everybody else in the joint was doing real time, all mixed together, living like pigs. But we lived alone. I mean, we owned the joint.
The Jerusalem Post listed Cohen as the 14th most influential Jew. He was Trump's consigliere, his right-hand man, just like Silvio was to Tony in The Sopranos. Within the Trump organization, he's known as Trump's pitbull, and that's really the best way to explain what he was doing for Trump. Cohen is a mob lawyer, and after he flipped, Trump threatened to go after his father-in-law, Fima Shusserman, who has ties to organized crime. Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, said on television that Jewish donors told her, "Maroka, you understand, of course, we'll donate to Clinton, but we'll donate twice as much to the Republicans." She then told the audience that if you want to know anything, you need to talk to the residents of Brighton Beach, a New York neighborhood with a large Russian Jewish community.
Not once in that stock scam were there any Russian organized crime figures, except My dad was involved with the Russian mob.
So you say nonchalantly, my dad was in the Russian mob.
Yes.
So what's the Russian mob? I mean, we don't.
Like every generation, every immigrant group that comes here, they're insular. They don't go, they sort of stay to themselves. Gambling, your basic run-of-the-mill racketeering.
In the 70s, Russian Jews began leaving the Soviet Union and settled in Brooklyn's Brighton Beach. A lot of them brought their skills from the old country, and Brighton Beach is now well known as a hotbed for Russian organized crime. Jewish mobster Boris Neifeld served as a bodyguard and chauffeur for the Don of the Russian mob, Marat Balagula. Balagula maintained an office at the Al Karib Country Club, a Brooklyn catering hall and event space owned by Michael Cohen's uncle, Morton Levine. Cohen and his family are involved with organized crime. Cohen received $500,000 from Russian Jewish oligarch Viktor Vekselberg, who's on the U.S. sanctions list because of his close relationship with Vladimir Putin. Vekselberg is also a major investor in Israeli high-tech. Amazon is bidding on the Jedi Project. The Pentagon's new cloud for top military secrets will be transferred, including classified details about weapon systems, military personnel, operations, and nuclear codes. Amazon has worked closely with C5, a group of cyber investment companies linked to Vekselberg. If Amazon were to win the Jedi contract, Russian and Israeli intelligence would have real-time access to the Pentagon's most sensitive secrets, just like what Israel did with Promise Software, selling it to the Sandia Nuclear Development Laboratory in Los Alamos.
Then Israel wanted to buy it. Israel couldn't afford it at the time. They stole it. Israel took it to Israel, and they realized, why don't we put a backdoor and peddle it to countries that we are the enemies and so on. But Israel became a vendor, a marketer for that to friendly countries and enemy countries who bought it.
Microsoft is also bidding on the Jedi contract. And shout out to Whitney Webb for her research connecting Microsoft's ties to Israel. Microsoft's cloud security is managed by Adalon, an Israeli company. Its CEO and co-founder, Asaf Rappaport, is a graduate of the Talpiot program, which has the best of Israeli military intelligence. So no matter who wins the contract, Israel will have a back door into the Pentagon's most sensitive secrets. If Microsoft wins, Russia would still have access because they've been trading intelligence with Israel for decades.
The one that I had the blonde wig on, he mentioned that I looked like, that I reminded him of his daughter. And actually the maid fantasy, I didn't have a blonde wig on. I was trying to stay away from blonde wigs at the time. But he actually told Tiffany that that's what he wanted me to wear. Like, he wanted it, and anytime I put it on, anytime I had it on and he'd see me, he would say, oh man, you look, and it wasn't like oh, you remind me of my daughter. It was this sick, evil, like, you remind me of my daughter. It was just this weird pleasure, sick smile. Like, I don't even want to know what he was thinking about. I could imagine what he was thinking about.
Karen McDougal also said Trump told her that she reminded him of his daughter. That's another two women who had affairs with Trump corroborating Katie Johnson's story. And Trump also tried to pay McDougal after sex, just like he did with Katie Johnson.
But Tiffany promised, assured me that it wasn't going to be, if it was anything I wasn't comfortable with, we could stop, that she would be right there, and that...
This was done to a 13-year-old. 13. So he raped his wife, And he has, if you look online, you will find there's also a list of women that he raped. Okay? Looking up these facts is really disturbing. It really is. I couldn't even look at the court documents when it came to, pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, what they did to Katie Johnson. I couldn't look at it. I couldn't. After reading a couple of lines, I had to stop reading.
It wouldn't get out of hand, and that it was a fantasy. Like, it wasn't really going to happen. And so I told her that I would. She basically, Tiffany was always nice to me. It wasn't that I trusted her, else and I wouldn't always trusted her or done what she asked me to. But she was there, and he came in, and I was basically tied to a bed with pantyhose, and he tied.
Don't scroll past this. If you
it hurt to even lay there, and I tried to say something. It was like, you just shut up, shut up, bitch. This was basically like he was being really, really rough, and I understand. It just didn't seem like a fantasy.
See, this is what people are not getting, and all right. Kyle Harris says both sides are on it. That's why it's not coming out. It's basically it. Okay. If people can't get it, all right, they're still stuck with this left-right paradigm when it's both sides are in on this. It's kind of with that analogy I did with Scream, the movie, right? You got Billy Loomis, and you got Stu. And you got the teenagers that are trying to survive and try not to get deleted. And this one woman, right? She's, the girlfriend of Billy Loomis. And thinking he's not going to hurt me. He's a true guy. So is Stu. But the reality is, Bill and Billy Loomis are taking turns pretending being the monster that's deleting the people in their friend group. That's what it is when it comes to these Democrats and Republicans. People are like, Joe Biden is great, and Trump is great. All right. They wouldn't hurt us. No, Trump is bad. No, Biden is bad. All right. And both sides aren't going to tell you they're the monsters. Okay. But both sides are taking turns. Okay. Destroying the country. That's the thing. And both sides just look at the American people like they're idiots. That's how they look at us. And then when you're trying to tell the truth, they fooled the masses to the point of thinking, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. When you're telling the truth, but the brainwashing it's too late.
And I started to get scared, and he was, basically ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out. I told him that I didn't want to do this. I was, I screamed over for Tiffany. She was like, Mr. Trump.
No one's painting the Democrats as the good guys. Unknown Soldier 567. No one's doing that. Hate to say that, but it's, again, people want to think that you support. Whenever you talk and criticize Trump, they think you're a Democrat. Sad.
Trump, she's only, this is scaring her, and he's like, oh, you shut up too.
Okay, this person here with some weird lettering, she's a black woman with shades, I think. I think she may be black, maybe white. He's not crashing out. He's not crashing out, but he's calling his voting base idiots and weaklings for wanting the Epstein client list to be released. Yeah, okay. He's not crashing out. Why hasn't he released the client list?
Just turned in this animal. It was like a completely different person.
Trump's ex-wife, Ivana, also accused him of rape, but later clarified, not in the criminal sense. And I agree with what she's saying. Couples role play.
Backed up probably because of some deal they had.
Elon is jumping back into the Epstein discourse. He had throughout the day and then late into the night a tirade about Trump. Before getting to that, you saw on screen there Trump literally scurrying away from questions about this after his, do you call it a love letter? I don't know, a love letter, a friend, like a bromance letter to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003?
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Yeah, he is crashing out because he knows he can't release the tapes. He can't release the files because he's on them and both parties are on them. He is crashing out because people are not going to stop. They're not going to let this go. It's too big to let go. Plus, he's had human trafficking going on in the Trump Plaza years ago. So people are not going to let this go at all. So he is crashing out because he's trapped. He basically built himself this cage that he's put himself in. He is crashing out because there's nowhere else to turn. He could blame Obama and Biden, Hillary, all he wants. People are not falling for that. He is crashing out. People are demanding the truth. They're not going to be distracted. They want to know the truth.
Why not go further than just unsealing this?
Mr. President, he's like, yes. Why on Epstein? Boom. And you have this headline from the Daily Beast. Musk goes nuclear on Trump's Epstein crisis with all-night posting meltdown. A flurry of posts on Wednesday afternoon in which Musk asked why Ghislaine Maxwell is in federal prison for a hoax. Yeah, this is the bizarre part. Trump keeps calling the Epstein thing a hoax. Now, I guess if you were being charitable, he means anyone trying to connect him to it, but he'll just go, the whole Epstein thing's a hoax. And so it sounds like he's saying all of it, which then made that sarcastic post possible. He then says it's a cover-up, obviously. It's not a hoax, from Elon. Asked in another post from a large right-wing account whether he thinks anyone will be held accountable, Musk responded, I sure hope so. This is a fundamental verdict on justice in America. I mean, yeah, there's some chance, right? There's some chance that they just don't have a bombshell against someone that they could bring to trial. I guess I'm open to that possibility, especially given that this many years have now passed, even not under Trump. Even if a few of the very worst Epstein clients were to be prosecuted, that would be something, but zero? Then he posts about the binders photo. This is brutal. If you're one of these influencers, this gets brought up so much. The MAGA influencers got the Epstein part 1.
My thing is this. This is how Trump doesn't respect women. He doesn't. This is proof right here. Why would you let this information be in the hands of strangers, influencers? Why would you let that? You don't care about the victims. You would have given these files to mainstream media, Fox News, MSNBC. You don't care about the victims at all.
So I know we talk about this so much now that I'm kind of done rehashing, but I'll probably keep doing it, let's be honest. But that's such a crazy move from Bondi to be like part 1 and then it's nothing new. And and then you don't have a part 2? Like, that's crazy. I never thought of that. They came out and said, that's so insane. They came out and said, we have phase 1. All right, when's phase 2? No, that was it. Phase 1. Like, number 1, that's it. That's bonkers. On Wednesday, Musk shared an image of those binders and said, where's phase 2? Yeah, exactly. Where is it? And then he asked his Hitler-praising AI chatbot Grok, as the Daily Beast describes it, and he queried about whether the U.S. government holds electronic records of who visited Epstein's private island. Gronk answered, yes. Did I say Gronk? Not Gronk. Not Gronkowski. He then asked if the government has a list of all unaccompanied minors on those flights, along with a list of all adults on those flights, and Gronk said yes. You get the point. He says this would necessarily mean the government must have the list of rapists, aka the Epstein client list, in their possession right effing now. And he keeps posting about it. At one point he said, wow, I can't believe Epstein killed himself.
Yeah, lady with the Ethiopian name, the black lady. America's corrupt as it is, and the American school system, yeah, it is corrupt. I just talked about how the school system, lies about American history and wants to keep black history out of American schools. Okay? There's a lot of American history that is kept out of the school system. So, and if Trump passes away, if something happens to him, just someone else will take his place. Okay? America's going down the tubes whether Trump is in office or not. That's the thing.
Before realizing it was all a hoax. So, he's back discussing that. One thing that now, okay, so this really weird thing happened. Let me pull the, you remember this, of course. Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him body letters for a 50th birthday album. One was from Donald Trump. Just if you missed our morning show coverage, come on. On the hump.
So I just want to talk about Elon dropping another bomb. But the sad thing is people are still trying to fall for the okie doke with Elon and think he's a hero. The guy's a Nazi. Like I said, poorly educated.
Trump is now so defensive over the
people are just
in response to his
that people are just that easily manipulated and thinking, yeah, Elon's for the people. He's for the people. He did a Nazi salute. It's not for the people. Many of you minorities are rooting for Elon. If it was up to Elon, you would be in a gas chamber. Many minorities died in those concentration camps in World War II. Many of you don't know the history, man. Okay? And you think a South African raised in apartheid, in an apartheid system, likes you.
Offensive over the MAGA revolt in response to his backtracking on the Epstein files, that he's actually calling his supporters weaklings. So let's get into this. We're going to get to the statement from Donald Trump on Truth.
Hold up. What? Again, another black person doing this. Trump's the daddy? Are you insane? President Trump is such a charming, funny guy. Even without money, women will throw themselves. Lady, you just said the dumbest thing ever. His wife is a nude model. Okay? She's going to these parties at the age of 17 for these rich, white, old men that were perverts. Okay? Without money, Trump would not be able to be in their circles. This is the thing with immigrants. Okay, you see this man has power, you see this man has money, and you think he's a godsend. You think this man is someone to worship and to idolize because he has money. And for me personally, being a black person, you see this with black immigrants. And you see with black Americans too. It's really disgusting that he's a charming man. You don't know anything about this man. I have talked about what he was like, the history of him when it came to the Central Park Five. And you think this man is charming? Even without money, women will throw themselves at him. What planet are you on? Maybe you're an immigrant who's come to this country. That's what I'm thinking. Because only an immigrant would say this bootlicking crap. Because he's white and he has money. That makes him a good person. Okay? You have black divestors who think that way. He's white. He's all right. Never take the time to know that person's character. Then when that guy goes upside your head, you're a crying victim. You don't even know what stuff Melania has to go through being with Trump. He's a charming man. So would you still think he's charming if he cheated on you with a porn star? Trump's the daddy. I'm sorry, you gotta go. Trump's the daddy. You don't even know this man. Trump's the daddy.
Social, it's unhinged. Just to let you know up front, we are going to get to Representative Dan Goldman, who during a hearing accused Trump of being in the Epstein files and said that he's hearing chatter that there's photos of Donald Trump with topless women. He uses the word women, and he issues a direct challenge to Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. We're going to get to that. But before we do, let's kind of get on the same page with this whole Epstein situation. So Jeffrey Epstein, dead. He died while waiting on his trial for sex trafficking. Donald Trump previously praised him in their friendship. There's, of course, numerous photos of them together, photos with Donald Trump and Melania and Jeffrey Epstein. And, of course, none of that mattered to QAnon and other conspiracy theorists who believe that there's this epidemic of child sexual abuse being committed by Democrats, and Donald Trump is the only one who can save the children, basically. And Donald Trump wins the election after promising during interview after interview that he would release the Epstein files, that he would declassify the Epstein files. And in February, MAGA influencers got invited to the White House, and they were supposedly briefed on the Epstein files. They even got their little binders that said like part 1 of the Epstein files. That's what the binders said, supposedly. And Pam Bondi went on to give interviews where she said that the Epstein files were on her desk for review per Donald Trump's instruction. Because again, they were going to be giving these things out. They were going to be making it known to everyone, to these people who are really concerned about child sex predators, right? That's what they say. And now suddenly there's nothing more to see. There's nothing more to see here, everybody. And this, in the midst of reporting coming out, like this new
Who's that person that said, oh, here we are. Korn says he is releasing them. When is he releasing them? I want to know when he's releasing them. When is he releasing them? I'd like to know. I'd like to know when is Trump going to release those Epstein files. I don't want to know, are you going to house Trump when those billionaires come for his head? I'd like to know. Because there are dictators on that list. There are some unsavory, evil people on that list. I want to know, will you protect President Trump and his family if he releases those files? You're not getting those files. You're not going to get them. You're not getting those files.
Report from Wired where they're showing, among other things, that almost 3 minutes are missing from the Epstein surveillance footage. So this was like a conspiracy theory that a lot of people were interested in. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it because it kind of, in my brain, got coded as a conspiracy theory. And
I don't know when, but he is. How do you know that? Did you talk to Trump? The truth will come out. You said he's going to release it. All of it. When is he going to release it? I don't know when, but he's going to release it. I don't have patience sometimes with people when it comes to this anymore. I don't. Because the information's in your face. It's in your face. The actions of Trump. If Trump was a black person, you wouldn't put up with this. If Trump was black, you would not put up with this at all. You would be howling for his head, howling for his impeachment. That's just the truth. You would never give this type of grace to Obama. You would never. Or Joe Biden. I mean, who knows? Joe Biden's probably on that list. Okay?
I don't pay a lot of attention to that. But now it's like, what's going on here? Why is Donald Trump acting so defensive about all of this? Why did they say they would release all of this information and now they're not going to release this information? And Donald Trump's post today is raising actually even more questions, because why is he acting like this? Let's look at this.
Proof is thousands of victims that are still alive can speak. Why does nobody consider that proof? Because it's not what they want to hear. He's an honorary vision of white Jesus. This is the man we want. This is the man we want running the country. We don't care about him molesting girls because within their culture, they've had that happen and they don't care. Like I said, ever notice that in the red states there's still laws in the books that a grown man can marry a 13-year-old girl? Ever notice in these red states that when there's crimes against children, the perpetrator gets a lighter sentence? Have you noticed that? This is why I think they don't care about Trump doing these things to little girls, because that's part of their culture.
I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to start here. Quote, also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit, in quotes, for some reason. Hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. And all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue.
If it's a hoax, get Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison right now. If it's a hoax, get her out of prison. Let her speak. It's a hoax, right? It's a lie. You know it's a lie. You could just prove it. Right? Right? Let her out. Start a GoFundMe. MAGA, start a GoFundMe. Get Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison. Have a GoFundMe. Raise the money to get her out of prison. Right now. It's a hoax. Since you believe Trump, it's a hoax. Get her out of prison. Right now.
Continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success.
And we began with the cracks in MAGA world growing deeper as President Trump insists it's time to move on from the Jeffrey Epstein case. The calls for his administration to release its files on the notorious sex offender now moving from talk radio to the halls of Congress, with some of his biggest supporters, including the House Speaker, urging the president and his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to change course.
This has been the first fracture in MAGA, and we don't want this to happen anymore.
But President Trump says he just doesn't get the hype now.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so
He gets the hype. He's hoping his base is stupid enough to obey him.
interested. He's dead.
Remember, he had, what was it? When he was campaigning, right? I believe. I forgot where it was, but it was in the desert, right? Hot place, right? Where they have, I think it was, I forgot the name of the place, but he paid for a bus trip for them one way to go to the function, all right? But he didn't pay for them to get taken back. All right? He left you in the desert, freezing. And you all still voted for Trump. You guys, it was dark and you guys couldn't see. He left you guys there when he was campaigning. I don't know how much. Look, the pain threshold for a MAGA supporter must be immense. You just worship this man. He left you in the night. So he thinks all the things that he has done to you, he thinks he could say the Epstein files don't exist. That's why he could do this. I remember it, but I forgot the place. I forgot the place where he went. Okay, and the MAGAs came over there. He gave him a bus. He paid for a bus trip to go there, where he was at, a speaking engagement. But he didn't pay for them to have a trip to come back, so you guys could go home your separate ways. And this is why he thinks he could do what he does to you guys. He knows he could lead you into a road of flaming hot coals, and you'd still walk. You'll still take you will still take the pain. That's why he feels he could say the Epstein file, Jeffrey Epstein don't exist. The files don't exist. You're worrying about this. You're an idiot. You're a clown. You're a weakling.
For a long time, it was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. Credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin, NBC's senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen, and former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid. Julie, House Speaker Mike Johnson, now the highest-ranking Republican to break with the president on this. What did he have to say?
Well, Johnson had a rare moment, extremely rare, actually. I can't think of a single other instance in which the speaker broke with the president on anything, but it goes to show you just how powerful, potent, and divisive this issue is within the very core of the MAGA base. Johnson, with conservative podcast host Benny Johnson, who kind of set up shop here in the Capitol, and lawmakers were able to just come through and talk and sit in these interviews, had damaging words, not so much for Pam Bondi, but in forcing this issue and kind of letting it bubble back up to the surface, wanting to see more of those files. Take a listen.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And Pam Bondi, I don't know when she originally
he agrees with it, but he's not going to let that happen. None of these Republicans are going to let that happen.
made the statement. I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, that were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody.
That said, as you know, Anna, there's always a difference between what they say and what they do, and Johnson could support an effort to force the administration's hand here, and he didn't. So far yesterday, he did not support a procedural motion from Congressman Ro Khanna, now a bipartisan effort with Thomas Massie as well, to try and set up a vote in which the House would then, if passed, force the DOJ to release these files. Johnson didn't do that. He still has an opportunity to. We're told that Khanna and Massie are actually trying to collect signatures, 218, to force what's called a discharge petition, enforcing the Speaker's hand in placing that vote and taking it anyway, regardless if he wants it or not. But we're not sure yet if it can get to 218 on it.
I mean, John, as the fallout keeps building, the president just responded on Truth Social this morning. He's blaming Democrats for the backlash. He writes, their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker.
Put a 1 in the chat if you think, if it's a hoax, that Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump should let Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison. Trump should pardon Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison right now. Pardon her. It's a hoax. Pardon her. Put a 1 in the chat. Okay? Let's see it. Okay? Especially you MAGAs. Let's see it. If you believe Donald Trump and he says it's a hoax, demand that he pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Demand it.
What should we make of this response from the president?
Well, the full Truth Social post was the length of a Leo Tolstoy book, but had the sort of intellectual consistency of a George Orwell book. This is a president who promoted the conspiracy theories around Jeffrey Epstein, including one that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton murdered Epstein in jail, which is absolutely insane, and for which there's no evidence because it didn't happen, and has now found himself in a position where he is at odds with a lot of his base. And I think the fallout of this and the danger for him is that it really is the base. It's the grassroots that is angry about this. And what we see that in the pressure being, put to bear on the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Tucker Carlsons, from both sides, both from Trump wanting them to stop talking about it and from the grassroots insisting that these Epstein files be released.
I mean, John, initially the president tried to stem the tide of this backlash with a post on Truth Social over the weekend. He wrote, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Well, he got slammed for that. That post received more than 45,000 responses, far more than other recent posts. Many of the top comments were expressing frustration with the president. John, does the president really not get it? Is he out of touch with his base on this?
Yes, he's absolutely out of touch with his base on this. And in fact, what we've seen is him repeatedly say no one's interested in this, stop talking about it in public comments. He's accidentally fanning the flames of this, but he sort of feels like he has to because it's the only thing that his base is talking about. We heard him once say, famously, that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose a vote. But what he's finding out right now is that he cannot ridicule and mock all of his own voters and get away with that. And
he can't, because he built his base off of hate. He built them off white ethnocentric pride. I am above all because I am white. That's what he built it off. And he has to support, he also has to support
and have them sit for.
He has to support family values in a way that, did you do it? Let's see the files. Okay? Let's see the files. But he can't do it.
Backlash. To Donald Trump's disastrous mishandling of the Epstein files, I thought it might be prudent to check in on Trump's former shadow president, top donor, top advisor, Elon Musk, who arguably set this whole thing into motion when he said about a month ago that Trump was implicated directly in the
Trump is not a smart person. He's not. Elon Musk got you the presidency. He rigged the voting machines with Starlink. That's how you got the presidency. And you thought it was a great idea to put in that big, beautiful sack of garbage bill to be against electric vehicles. You can't toss away Elon. Okay? The problem with Trump is that he doesn't see that he has to change in order to survive. You can't keep screwing over people that help you to get to places where you're at. Okay? You asked Elon for help. He helped you. Now you have to keep him around. You have to. And you have to make sure he's there with you, close. And you thought it was good to screw him over. You got yourself a girlfriend that helped you win the election. And the consequence is that you got to keep that person near you if you want to survive this political hellscape. He didn't think that way. This is why I say Trump is a wannabe dictator. Wannabe. Because he has no brains. He's not cunning as he thinks he is. You're going to screw over the person that got you the election. Illegally. That makes no sense.
Epstein files, and that's the reason Trump hadn't arranged for their release. Well, as the Epstein files backlash hit its fever pitch over the past 72 hours, Elon Musk has had a lot to say from the peanut gallery. But before we all right, folks, we got a lot of Elon tweets to look at here. So as Mediaite reports, Elon Musk reignites his feud with Donald Trump over the Epstein files. Quote, it's a cover-up, obviously. After accusing, then walking back, his claim that Donald Trump is in the DOJ's files on Jeffrey Epstein, Elon Musk is back to making explosive claims about the president's handling of the investigation on the convicted sex trafficker's case. In a stunning series of posts on X Wednesday and Thursday, the former Doge boss turned up the heat on Trump big time, accusing the Trump administration of trying to keep the Epstein matter under wraps. It's a cover-up, obviously, Musk wrote in one post on Wednesday. And you may recall, in a video we did yesterday, recent polls have indicated that an overwhelming...
I don't like Joy Reid. Joy Reid's not paying me. I don't respect the person that wants to promote a book about basically grooming kids. Thanks for trying to assume, though.
Majority of Americans, including a substantial majority of Republicans, believe the Trump administration is indeed engaging in a cover-up. It's not good. So, Elon Musk, for once, has found an opinion of popular support. Musk also took on...
And I'm talking to swagger like us. No, I don't like Joy Reid. Okay. Sorry.
On Trump's bizarre claim that the Epstein story is a Democrat-perpetrated hoax. Quote, wow, amazing that Epstein killed himself and Ghislaine is in federal prison for a hoax. The Tesla chief on Thursday proceeded to question...
Once again, if this is a hoax, I'll say it again. If you think Ghislaine Maxwell should be pardoned, if it's a hoax, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. Give a reason why. It's a hoax, right? It's a hoax. Means it's not true. So, let her walk.
Question the FBI's handling of the evidence against Epstein. Yeah, where is it? Musk wrote in reply to a post which posited the question, what happened to all the evidence against Epstein? With the big, beautiful budget bill Musk strongly opposed having now been signed into law, the ex-Doge czar may be in search of revenge. Still, it remains to be seen what...
But who? What? Jimmy Johnson, you people need to stop worrying about that cretin and work about making America great again, like our president, because we have a lot of work to do, and it won't be easy. What work, sir? Bringing back segregation to America? Making sure minorities are still at the bottom of the totem pole in this society? Making sure that the only thing you could do in this country is basically to work on fields, okay? Being so poor that you have to work in factories or join the military to possibly lose your life fighting for corporations? What is this make America great again? When was America great for all people in this country? Jimmy Johnson, when was America great? I'd like to know, because I've asked this question a lot and none of you MAGAs could actually get this question right. You can never get the answer right. You can never tell the straight answer because you know it's not true. But I'll entertain myself. I'll give you a chance. When was America great for everyone in this country? When was America great for blacks, whites, women, people of alternative lifestyles? When was America great? I'd like to know, Jimmy Johnson, when was America great?
Impact Musk's attacks will have on Trump's base, given a new CNN poll which showed Musk's favorability rating at a disastrous 25%, and we will look at that poll at the end of this. So let's look at some of Musk's recent tweets. Trump should just release the files. And
Mike Bivens, it's great now and since 1776. No, it has not, liar. We still have segregation. We still have blacks and minorities treated as subhuman. We still have corruption in our government. We still have the American government lying about reasons to go to war. I knew you would lie. Thanks for proving me right, Mike Bivens. Thanks for proving me right. You really don't want to say the fact that it was great when minorities were slaves and places were segregated. And you could say the N-word without impunity. And you could force minorities into wars. And when they came back in pieces, you could just throw them in jail and not give them benefits. That's basically what you want to say, Mike Bivens.
and point out which part is the hoax. What happened to phase 2? He said in response to Matt Walsh, in reference to the Pam Bondi phase 1 Epstein files binder release. That was phase 1. What happened to phase 2? Says Elon Musk. Elon Musk repeatedly says not a single Epstein client has been prosecuted. Musk says, that fact has me shook, to be honest. For real.
Pretty much. Now, let's get back to the comment section I was looking at. People say, if you don't like America, leave. Sir, you're white. You need to leave first. Okay? Since you have that mentality, since, you're white and you're not the original Americans, so you need to leave. How about that? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this $40 billion bounty that's on Trump's head now from Iran.
Are you telling me that somebody placed a $40 million bond on this man's head? So you telling me
a fatwa? That's what it. A fatwa is what they say in Islam. That is what is put on Trump's head. A fatwa was also put on Salman Rushdie when he exposed the satanic verses in Islam. Salman Rushdie is actually a hero, unlike Trump.
$1 million bounty on Donald Trump. The Iranian movement called the Blood Covenant is claiming to have crowdfunded more than $40 million as a reward for the assassination of Donald Trump. A website for the movement contained a poster of Trump in crosshairs with an appeal to detonate in order to help establish stable peace. They also quote a verse from the Quran: strive with your wealth and your lives in the cause of Allah. This is a call to jihad. All I'm going to say is count me out. Now, this apparent threat comes weeks after the U.S. launched devastating airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facility.
a lot of people think that the United States is going to be able to handle Iran. Okay, a lot of Trump supporters think that way. And like, there was this black lady thinking about, oh, you don't know the grit our president has. I'm like, first off, he's not your president. He's racist white people's president. Okay? And he's making it very hard for blacks, young blacks, to succeed. After all, okay, when there was a program in Chicago for black youth, you know, to help focus on them and help them to excel so they could leave their rough environment, Trump sued the program. All right, the people holding the program said it was racist, said it was racism. It was violated the Civil Rights Act of Article 6. Okay? This is Trump. And people want to say Trump is not racist. Okay? Trump is the one that blocked funding for the National Institute of Health to research sickle cell anemia, which affects mostly the demographic of blacks in this country. Okay? This is Trump. It's really sickening seeing minorities follow this man. Knowing this man is against your best interests. All right? And a lot of you do not know the depth and the calculation and the grit of people who truly follow Islam. We have sleeper cells in this country that the supreme leader of Iran has said to have them activated. Okay? Islam is a religion of guerrilla warfare. Okay? It's not a religion of peace. It's not a religion of family. It's not a religion of family values. It's a religion of death, destruction, and it by any means necessary. It's also a religion of slavery. If they want to get you, they will. You've seen how Europe is almost overrun, how London is being overrun, how Sweden is being overrun, and many other places within Europe by Islam. Okay? It is a very dangerous religion. So these sleeper cells activated, they want to pick popular targets. That's all they got to do and start causing havoc. Okay? They want to bomb a place. They want to take out some people. They will do it. That's a very dangerous religion. And they still practice the slave trade in the Middle East. They're still selling blacks in the Middle East. They're still doing horrible things to women in the Middle East. People say, you're an Islamophobe. No, I'm not. There are plenty of information of what happens in London and other and other countries. What's going on in London? What's going on in Europe? What's going on in the Middle East? How they treat their women. And don't listen to them when they say it's false. Oh, that's the extremists. No, that is Islam. Don't get me wrong. Not everyone practices that religion like that. But this is how dangerous they are.
Like this shit right here.
Okay? And if they want to try and, I mean, I don't want anything to happen to Trump, because the next person's just going to take his place and probably be worse than Trump. All right. People have talked about this even in his first administration. If something happens to Trump, then Mike Pence would just take over. Just like now, if something happens to Trump now, okay, JD Vance will take over. But these people right here, they're not to be played around with. They're not to be taken as a joke. Because we have sleeper cells here. And they will do some damage. People want to say, go Trump, go Trump. Thinking that he is somebody that to rally behind. My president, my president. Just when you hear a black woman talk that way, when you hear a black woman talk that way, it's like, wow. It's like you feel like they set you back 500 years, 400 years.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
They ain't playing. I told you they ain't playing. Look at this. Look at this. Look at those numbers, man. Found Iranian website that put 42 million bounty on Trump's head. It's billion, but you see the numbers rising up.
Group in Iran has crowdsourced $40 million for someone to take out Donald Trump. Like, I'm not making this up. You know, instead of crowdsourcing to help people, they decided to take out Donald Trump. And honestly, I didn't think we were gonna be here, but here we are. So the flyer is also super diabolical. It says this campaign is not funding terrorism, funding the fight against U.S. state terrorism. You know how badly you have to piss off Iranians for them to put a $40 million fatwa on your head, and that being crowdsourced from people. I mean, people are so broke in Iran. It's not even funny. The sanctions have really dried out the society as a whole. Everything's super expensive, and yet they still came together to fundraise $40 million bounty for Donald Trump. Honestly.
Let me see here. Sorry about that. Sammy MTK says, who told you Islam was religion of violence? Sir, I have the Hadith, okay? I have the Quran. You read it for yourself. I've looked at also people who are former Muslims, and they have told me, okay? There's also videos of what's going on around the world, how, you know, practicing Islam, especially how they practice on how to treat women. Okay, so you could practice taqiyya somewhere else. Taqiyya is also deception, the art of deception. All right.
I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but like, listen, we saw the Luigi effect. If anyone took this up, it would be crazy.
It would be crazy because you're throwing your life away.
All of this coming as a fatwa, or religious decree from Iranian officials, is calling for the assassination of President Trump, and they claim to have created an online fund worth an estimated $40 million. Max Lesser is senior analyst for emerging threats at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He's been looking into all of this and does join us now live to discuss it a little bit further. First off, Max, thank you so much for being here with us. Can you kind of explain?
Jamal Muhammad, this is a trash content creator. Send Africans back to Africa. I'm an African American, sir. And also the fact that if you take on the last name of a person that said that, you know, the black man is the image of Satan. Okay. And according to Muhammad, okay, Allah made black people out of coals. All right. And then said, to hell with them. I don't care. He made white people out of pearls. And to heaven, I don't mind. He said black people were destined for hellfire. Okay? This is Muhammad. Okay? This is Muhammad. I don't know what to tell you, but that's the truth. And this is why black Muslims are treated like crap in the Middle East. Go on social media. You can look it up for yourself, sir.
The situation here overall as a whole, what we're being told and maybe what we don't know just yet.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Josh. So there have been a lot of threats issued recently by members of the Iranian government, Shiite clerics, against Trump or just against Americans more broadly. And what I would say is that Iran has been trying to assassinate President Trump for years. And now it's all out in the open. And what I've been looking at with my team at FDD is a particular website that is seeking or allegedly claiming to crowdfund a bounty for Donald Trump's assassination, saying, look, if you carry out this deed, we will compensate you with this money. They claim to have raised millions and millions of dollars. The most recent figure was over $40 million. We have no idea if this is a legitimate number or not, but it's a clear effort to try to mobilize and motivate any sympathetic audience to carry out an act of violence against President Trump.
What first brought the site there to your attention? And I'll be honest, I can't really pronounce the name of it. I don't know if you can, but what made it kind of stand out to you as a potential threat?
Yeah, so the website actually takes its name for the Arabic word for revenge. And a lot of time what I have my team do, we monitor for malicious Iranian activity. And a lot of times what that looks like, to be quite honest, is just doom scrolling. People are probably familiar with that term, just doom scrolling on social media, scrolling and searching and looking for these little needles in the haystack. And so one of my remarkable interns actually came across this website and flagged it to me very early on, back on July 8th. And what I immediately wanted to do, we saw it was clearly an Iranian website. It had a .ir domain name, which shows that it was created in Iran. And what we wanted to do was to go in and actually see, well, who actually created this website? Was this potentially an Iranian government effort? Was this just a vigilante effort? And when we looked at it, we actually uncovered the identity of a man who was involved in the creation of the website, which I'm happy to chat more about. And that man actually has historical ties to the Iranian state broadcasting group. So we actually were able to identify the man, one of the men behind this website, and reveal his identity.
I do want to talk more about that, of course. So tell me what you learned about this guy.
Yeah, so the man, again, as I mentioned before, he previously, or at one point, worked for the Iranian state broadcaster. So that's a clear tie to an Iranian government organization. And he seems to have created this. It's unclear if he's acting alone or with others, but he's creating this hashtag. And what I would say about this website is it's sort of, I would call it an influence operation, because what it really seeks to try to do is try to influence people, to mobilize people, to carry out acts of violence. And on the website, he actually references those fatwas that you mentioned earlier to lend religious authority to this effort. And it is quite concerning. And what we can do is, by revealing the man's identity, we can actually, the U.S. government can implement more targeted sanctions against the people who are directly responsible for the creation of this website.
You kind of touched on this already, but is there any way to really verify that we are talking about a $40 million bounty that has been raised by this group? There's no way to really know that for sure. It could just be a number that they're throwing out there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Josh. And that speaks to the point that I brought up earlier, which is that this is really, I would categorize this as an influence operation. It's seeking to influence people. It's seeking to mobilize people. Pushing that number up higher and higher just holds the potential to motivate people more and more and more to carry out this violence. And I think this is what we've seen from Iranian operations, especially since October 7th, and especially since the 12-day war that happened recently between Iran and Israel. We've seen Iranian influence operations increasingly take this violent turn. One of the operations that me and my team have been tracking, I and my team have been tracking, actually put Saudi Aramco in its crosshairs and was trying to mobilize Yemenis to carry out acts of violence against Saudi Aramco. So we see this sort of increasingly violent turn in Iranian influence operations. And this actually, though we're seeing this trend, this goes back a long time. Actually, there was an Iranian operation in the past called Enemies of the People that created websites that doxed election.
So now we're seeing how if Trump just kept the Iran nuclear deal that Obama had in place, we wouldn't be having to see this. We wouldn't have to be witnessing this. Iranian group places 40 million bounty on Trump's head, urges every cell of the resistance in the West to carry out death sentence. Do you understand how deadly these people are? This is not a joke. So all of you is like, my president, this, my president. No. I said before, Islam is a guerrilla warfare religion. All right. They've been fighting in wars longer than we've been alive. Their book literally tells you to make friends with people that are not Muslim, but curse them in their hearts. All right. You make friends with the infidel, the non-Muslim, but curse them in your heart. Okay. If your numbers are small, pretend to be their friend. Once your numbers are big, now you could strike. Okay. When Muhammad was in Mecca, he didn't have many followers. Okay. But when he went to Medina, that's when he got slaves. That's when he got warriors. And that's when he started tearing things up. Cultural jihad. You see the same thing in Europe, okay? They came small. It was just peaceful. As soon as they got numbers, all of a sudden you see Europe being taken over by Islam. You see what happened? Like I said, you see what happened in London. You see what happened in Sweden. Sweden has no-go zones. This religion is not something to play with. These, once you get that in you and you're brainwashed to follow Muhammad, it's not a game. It's not a joke anymore. These people are built different. Trump doesn't know who he's messing with. And then we got, the Christian nationalists playing games like this.
Hello, everyone. Amanda Grace here from Ark of Grace Ministries. So, an Iranian group calling itself the Blood Covenant has reportedly collected a very large sum of money, about $40 million, as a reward for anyone who assassinates President Trump. This information came from the Middle East Media Research Institute, MEMR, which has been tracking the group's actions and statements. Let me show you what's going on here, because this is a 1 Samuel 17 moment that the Kingdom of Darkness through Iran is attempting to reverse engineer, and it's going to be their fall instead. So in 1 Samuel 17:25, it says, the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. They're talking about Goliath. The king will reward the man who kills him with great riches and will give him his daughter in marriage and make his father's house free from taxes and service in Israel. What they're attempting to do, the Kingdom of Darkness, is reverse engineer this and put the bounty upon the head of David instead of the bounty being upon the head of Goliath. First,
you trying to compare a child molester to a figure that's known to some Christians as a good person. You comparing Trump to a this is how these white Christian nationalists work, man. This is how crazy they are. You putting a pedophile rapist in the light of a biblical figure that is known among to Jews as a good person. Trump is the one that Trump is a scumbag. Let's keep playing. Let's let this go.
43 through 50. The Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with a shepherd's staff? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. This is what they're attempting to do to President Trump. Verse 44, the Philistine also said to David, come to me and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. That's verse 45. That means you come at me with physical weapons to kill me. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted, whose covenant you have violated, whom you have cursed.
Okay. All right, that's enough of that delusion. So your God is a God of pedophiles now? Your God's okay with a man sleeping, cheating on his wife with a porn star? Your God is okay with a man hanging out with the likes of Jeffrey Epstein? You see how these Christian nationalists work? You see how they are? The madness, man. The utter madness. The craziness, man. Yeah, they will go, the links they will stoop to idolize Trump. Yes, Trump is such a man of God that he's incinerating 500 tons of emergency food. He's such a man of God. Let's get into this. Hold on. Yeah.
Guys, listen to this.
500 tons of emergency food. Trump has ordered that to be incinerated.
500 tons of emergency food set on fire. Remember all that foreign aid President Trump froze in January? Well, shipments of high-nutrient biscuits have been sitting in a Dubai warehouse for months, set to expire mid-July. And rather than deliver them to the children in Pakistan and Afghanistan that they were intended for, the Trump administration gave the order to burn it. This is according to current and former government officials interviewed by The Atlantic and Reuters. Now, we're talking about enough food to...
Yeah, Janet, horrible that it could go along. That could go a long way to help feed people who are starving. Yes, but, you know, Trump is a man of God. Okay? It's not like he brought this issue on himself by pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. Okay? Well, we had Iran at bay and we were at peace with them. He's such a man of God, though.
1.5 million children for a week. It amounts to $800,000 of taxpayer money already spent, turned to ash. It didn't have to be this way. For months, USAID employees have been sounding the alarm. Foreign aid organizations have reached out saying they would distribute the biscuits themselves. But apparently that's against the rules. And get this, a government memo verified by Reuters reveals it's going to cost another $100,000 to destroy the food. Keep in mind, across the world, hundreds of tons more food, more U.S. aid is sitting on warehouse shelves right now. Administration officials have signed off on a deal clearing the way for some of that to be shipped before it expires in September. But experts warn, even if everything's approved, Trump's dismantling of USAID might make it impossible for those shipments to actually get.
see right here. It says they better all be reminded of Matthew 25 because MAGA doesn't read the Bible. They just thump it. Pretty much. Pretty much. They just thump it and try to make Trump this biblical figure. I don't get it, man. I don't. Just really insane at times how they play these games. All right.
We have some breaking news. The Trump administration will spend $40 to $50 billion per year to deport migrants, but it won't spend the $250,000 to $500,000 to ship the remaining emergency food the USAID has. He's going to burn it instead. Trump's administration is destroying nearly 500 tons of emergency food, enough to feed over 1 million children. The food was stockpiled under Biden through USAID, high-energy biscuits designed for crisis zones like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other places. And after Trump's team took over, they froze foreign aid. What happened next? The food sat in storage for months. USAID workers begged to get it out the door.
Is God a part of this? Did God direct Trump to have emergency food rot? I just want to know. Let me know in the chat. Do you think Trump is a man of God? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. And tell me why.
They managed to save some. Over 600 tons were diverted to the World Food Program. But nearly 500 tons, enough to feed 1.5 million children for a week, will be burned or dumped into a landfill. Destroying this aid will cost another $100,000. And that is on top of the $800,000 that it took to make it in the first place. And this is real, people. I'm not making this up. It's completely documented. It'll be in my Substack. And this is what happens when policy becomes politics. It is so hard to stay impartial because everything that this administration is doing is basically just saying we don't care about kids.
Pretty much. They don't care about kids. They don't. They don't care about kids. They don't care about women. They only care if you're rich and you're white. That's it. That's what matters. We're seeing about Trump sending Asians and Latinos, deporting Asians and Latinos to South Sudan.
And our next story is from South Sudan, which has received migrants deported by the United States. A group of 8 migrants has arrived in South Sudan from the US, but only one of them is South Sudanese. The rest are from Asia and Latin America. The group includes 2 nationals from Myanmar, 2 from Cuba, and 1 each from Vietnam, Laos, and Mexico. They initially left the United States for South Sudan in May, but their flight was diverted to Djibouti, where they were held for weeks at a US military base. This after a federal court imposed a stay on third country deportations. But that stay was lifted last week by the US Supreme Court, clearing the way for deportations. Now, the current location of the men in South Sudan remains unclear. Officials have not confirmed if South Sudanese authorities have detained them or what their fate will be. Earlier, South Sudanese officials had said that they will deport the migrants to their respective nations. Lawyers representing the detainees say their clients face a serious risk of torture if forced to stay in South Sudan. They also argue the migrants were denied constitutional rights through this process. US officials have labeled the migrants as barbaric, violent, criminal, illegal aliens, with convictions including murder, sexual assault, and armed robbery.
Okay, send them back to their regular countries then. Or, have them, put them in the prison system. That's it.
We found a nation that was willing to accept custody of these vicious illegal aliens. We are removing these convicted criminals from American soil so they can never hurt another American victim, an American man child, or woman. They can never attack witnesses, families, victims, or anyone else.
The fate of these
Why have them in another prison system where they might get out? Okay. Or worse, their culture accepts that type of brutality. I'll say it. Why not send them to Alligator Alcatraz? Okay. Of course, you do have to fix the place up, Alligator Alcatraz, because there are human rights violations down there. But sending them to a country that is not their own is not a good idea.
migrants has become a flashpoint in the ongoing legal battle over the Trump administration's controversial deportation strategy. This includes sending migrants to so-called third countries with which they have no connection. South Sudan has long been considered dangerous due to continued unrest after a 5-year-long civil war. The state
This is your president who's anointed by God. By God. So let's talk about Greg Abbott.
Well, a town in Texas has over $4 million.
All right, being an illegal immigrant is not a felony; it's a misdemeanor. Yes, but the fact of the matter, these are illegal immigrants who have committed heinous crimes, so they need to go back to their country, okay, or they serve time in prison, in American prison. Okay, you cannot send them to a country where they don't know the language. Okay. It's not a good idea. All right. Plus, you're going to be hit with human rights violations. God forbid anything happens. You're sending them to a war zone. Why would you do that? Okay. A lot of you who are backing Trump, you are backing the most barbaric person we have as president. All right? You basically don't care about human decency, due process. You don't care about anything but torture. As long as it's not happening to you, you're okay with it. You don't care about the fact that you have people in Alligator Alcatraz. I even said, you know what? Send these violent illegal immigrants to Alligator Alcatraz, provided that you fix the problems in Alligator Alcatraz. The air conditioning, the food, which is said to have maggots in it. Okay, the sanitation needs to be fixed. Okay, because you don't want human rights violations beating down on your neck. But a lot of you MAGAs don't care. You come up with this self-righteous way of living. All right. And you want this high standard that you yourself cannot live. And God forbid you end up at the crosshairs in Trump's administration, you will be crying and begging for mercy. Yes. All right. But the thing is, like, these aren't immigrants that are fleeing for a better life. These are immigrants that are actually criminals, that actually need to get out of our country. They're rapists. They harm kids. They got to go. They go through due process and they go back to their own country. That's what needs to happen. You don't send them to a country that is not their own where they could get killed. Then you'll have people thinking that they're martyrs and will demand that the president and his administration pay the price for human rights violations. We see what's going on with the El Salvador prisons and sending Americans over there. and sending immigrants over there without due process.
Of its own local tax dollars being sent to Israel. When they audited their books and found this, the town of San Marcos decided this has over $4 million of its own local tax dollars being sent to Israel. When they audited their books and found this, the town of San Marcos decided to stop that aid. Now Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of Texas, says you actually can't do that. It's against the law. Now Israel receives billions of dollars in federal aid from the United States government. This local government, for a small town of only 70,000 people, found that their residents were sending $4 million a year, and they said, we actually don't want to do that. We want to send that to our local schools, our fire departments, maintain our roads. And the state is saying, you cannot do that. You must continue to send that money to Israel.
You know, Israel gets $4 billion a year, free health care, free abortion, free education. Education is expensive as hell in America. Women's rights are being taken away. I personally, when it comes to abortion, okay, I do believe it's a woman's right to choose, okay? But it shouldn't be, you know, let me rephrase that, okay? Unless it's rape, unless it's child abuse, unless it's an emergency pregnancy where the mother's life is at risk, I don't agree with abortion, okay? Even then, you know, yeah, that's where I stand. That's where I stand. Don't want to lose my train of thought. That's where I stand, okay? And I do believe a woman has to have a right to choose. She has to make up her own mind. You can't put she has to make her choice. All right? You're getting that taken away in America, but in Israel, it's okay. I have an issue with that, and many of you should also have an issue with that. They get free health care in Israel. You don't get that in America, yet America is sending their tax dollars, $4 billion a year is being sent to Israel. That should raise some eyebrows. And Trump backs Israel.
Now, this is not quite a cut and dry story. It's outrageous that the governor is saying, no, you need to keep sending your local tax dollars to Israel. And he has his own crazy reasons. But the bill was also a little bit strange, too. This is, again, a town of 70,000 people sending over $4 million per year to Israel instead of the local priorities that they wanted. They drafted a resolution to stop that, and Governor Abbott said, you can't do that because it's anti-Semitism, so they are obligated to send their money abroad to Israel. Here is his tweet about it, and then also he wrote the letter. He says that this is against state law. What law? Well, actually, there is a law in Texas that no government entity may enter into a contract worth $100,000 or more unless it includes a written verification that the entity does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during their term. So this is basically an anti-BDS law on the books. The town, though, the resolution itself is a little above its britches. It's a bit crazy because the resolution of the town calls for a ceasefire.
Oh, all right, cool.
Fire negotiation in Gaza. How can a small Texas town do that? And it calls for Israel to remove itself from Gaza. Okay. Again, that's a little insane how a small town in Texas can do this. But what they want to do is try to reallocate their own money. And the governor is saying, no, you can't have your own local priorities. Now, this is not, again, a part of the BDS movement, which calls for boycotts of Israel. Congress did try to pass a law making it illegal to boycott Israel. That never became a law. But in fact, 38 states have anti-BDS laws on their books. State laws, these have not held up in court, but they have not been struck down either. So each state has these laws. 13 additional states want to put them on the books, even though more than 70% of Americans do not support anti-BDS laws, because we should be able to boycott whoever the hell we want to. That's our right. No government should tell us what we have to support and what we don't have to support. But again, that is currently the law in many states. There is a movement in Texas to repeal that. Who knows where that will go?
So we get to see we're the United States of Israel. All right. People have said this for a long time. We are the United States of Israel. Zionism runs this country. Okay. And a lot of people don't understand that. Okay. They own both Republican and Democrat parties. Okay. They don't get that at all. They don't, you're supporting Trump, Trump, Trump. We love you, President Trump, 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 Trump. You love Israel. I'm talking about the Zionists. I'm not talking about all Israel, because you have people, in Israel that don't agree with Benjamin Netanyahu. They call him Benny Escobar because he's a dictator. All right. And they don't agree with the way he is treating Palestinians. Okay. And a lot of people, are against the way how America is being treated by Israel. Okay. That's another thing too.
You know that famous saying, don't mess with Texas? Don't mess with Texas unless you're Israel, and then you can mess with us all you want. You can actually control us and set laws for us. Make it so that it's illegal to boycott you. And if people object to it in Texas, free Texans, American citizens object to it, you can threaten them and say that they're not going to get any city contracts. Because apparently everything, including cuckery, is bigger in Texas. Anti-Israel policy are anti-Texas policies. Got it? This story is not receiving nearly enough attention, and he's not receiving nearly enough backlash. I sent a letter to the city of San Marcos today condemning a proposed anti-Semitic resolution that flouts Texas law. Excuse me, bitch? The San Marcos City Council recently held a discussion about the possible resolution calling for the immediate and permanent ceasefire in occupied Palestine, an arms embargo on the Israeli regime, recognition of Palestinian sovereignty, and the protection of constitutional rights for all people under national and international law. Demanding an arms embargo to stop the U.S. from funding the Israeli military, claiming more than $4 million that come from San Marcos taxpayers. So they did the math and was like, well, $4 million of that, because we give them a standing $3 billion a year, and we've also given them more than $20 billion just since October 7th. So they did the math and calculated, okay, about $4 million of that comes from our taxpayers in San Marcos, and we don't want that going to their genocide. So that's where Greg Abbott comes flying in to be like, actually, you're not allowed to do that because anti-Israel policy is anti-Texas policy. You got that, Texas? Texas, the land of we do whatever we want, don't fucking tread on me, I'm American. Now you're gonna let this clown tell you that you're not allowed to participate in any kind of boycott of the Israeli regime or call for an arms embargo because anti-Israel policy is anti-Texas policy? I want to know this from my friends from Texas. Did you know this? Did you know this about your own state? Did you know that apparently if you are anti-Israel or if you want to participate in a boycott or call for a ceasefire or call for the stopping of funding of this genocide, that actually you're anti-Texas? Because apparently if you're a Texan, you're only really a Texan if you're pro-Israeli regime. This is fucking insane. It's also unconstitutional. I don't know why everybody just keeps ignoring that, but you can't fucking make an American support another fucking country if we don't want to. This is crazy. You can boycott any country, including our own, but you can't boycott them?
You got to see how this was coming through, because when the Russian-Ukraine war popped off, you could not say anything about Ukraine. You dared to talk about Ukraine and tell the truth about Ukraine being a neo-Nazi nation and Zelensky's a dictator, people would shout you down, okay? I remember going through Times Square. You had Ukrainian flags, okay? People were chanting, Azov, Azov, all right? In certain parts of the city, all right? I believe it was, what was it? It was East 71st Street, around that area. People were saying, Azov, 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 all right? Azov Battalion, a white supremacist neo-Nazi military group in Ukraine. All right? You can say nothing about Ukraine. And you're seeing the same thing here now with Israel. Say anything, criticize Israel, you're anti-Semitic. You know?
Statement he put, whenever San Marcos enters a grant agreement with my office, it requires to certify that it will comply with all state laws, including laws prohibiting government support for boycotts of Israel. What the fuck? Here's a nice graphic my friends over at Track APAC made of all the things these tax dollars could be going to for Texans. I know many of us know, not everybody knows, that there are anti-BDS laws and anti-boycott the Israeli regime laws all over the country like this. But it really is amazing to actually just see it spelled out like this and attempted to be enforced by a so-called free people of Texas, by a so-called patriot. Patriot for which country, bro? You're...
That's basically it.
Meantime, Texas Governor Greg Abbott took 2 actions last night related to the ongoing Israel and Hamas war. At a solidarity gathering Monday night, the governor issued an executive order prohibiting state agencies from purchasing goods produced or exported from the Gaza Strip and from any organization or state actor with ties to Hamas. Governor Abbott also announced over $4 million of additional funding to provide enhanced security for Jewish organizations such as synagogues and schools across the state.
Hearts are weeping. They're weeping throughout Israel.
Look at that. They got him. Look at that. I'm not for Hamas. I'm not for Hamas at all. But you got to see that both sides need to be criticized. And this right here is crossing the line. All right? The Hamas attack, you have to understand something. It is hard to support Benjamin Netanyahu when he let down the Iron Dome and let Hamas attack. When he got intel 3 days in advance from the Egyptian government that Hamas was going to attack Israel. Then you got Greg Abbott having that you can't boycott Israel, you can't say anything, criticize Israel. Yet Israel is living off the backs of American taxpayers.
But also all across Texas because of the horrific attack on Israel, which must be called, it is an act of war to which Israel has the right of self-defense, for which there is no expiration date on what
Israel had a right to defend itself, but Benjamin Netanyahu let Israel down. He sacrificed his people for a land grab. And a mistreatment, of the Palestinians is gross and inhumane. And Benjamin Netanyahu has to be held accountable. He has to be. There are many horrible and evil things the Israeli government has done. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes right now. All right. I'm going to talk about this person right here. Guess he didn't like the interview with Candace Owens.
They don't care about this shit. That's all about.
her totally unimpressive. I watch her shows. It's totally unimpressive. And she's cute. She's good looking. She's put together, you know, as women are. Women are good at being Barbie dolls, you know. And they all want to be Oprah. Brett Cooper, Candace Owens, they all just want to be Oprah. They don't care about this shit. That's all nonsense. They don't care about this stuff. They all want to do a talk show. So she want to do Barbara Walters, you know, tough interview. Okay. Well, you got what you wanted. So anyway, so that was our collaboration. That was my thoughts on it.
What are you talking? No, Hamas isn't the country. What are you talking about? Hamas is a terrorist group. What are you talking about? Brandon Roher, I'm not a lefty. I'm a registered Republican. I don't know what to tell you.
Response from almost everybody said the same thing. They said she was emotional. She was triggered about race. She was being almost deliberately obtuse. That it was tedious getting into the screenshots, the drama. And above all else...
See, it's this thing about the Republicans, right? They want to talk about for America first, but you don't want to talk about the issues that are plaguing America, which is racism. You want everybody to shut up about that. You want the minorities to shut up about that. Yet we are American and we live in this country and we have a history in this country. And they always get triggered when you talk about race because they want you to shut up about it.
You know, put some respect on my name. And I hit the nail on my head at the end. I kind of went off. And I said, look, I was 17. What's your excuse? You know, you got married later than me. You got red-pilled later than me. You became a truth teller later than me. And you haven't gone through a fraction of what I've gone through. And she wants to call me out. That's what she texted me. She goes, I'm calling you out. And my response to that is, bitch, you have no right.
And this is what blacks get going on the Republican side. Okay? Yes, I'm a registered Republican, but I've listened to commentary from Republicans, and I know I would never want to be in their circles, in these public figures, Republican public figures circles. I wouldn't want to be in their circles because they don't like me.
Right to call me, and maybe it's time for you as a woman to sit down and shut the fuck up.
I thought they respected women.
That's me, a man. You want to say make me a sandwich? Okay, this is me, a man, telling you, a woman, to sit down and shut the fuck up before you call out anybody else. Sit down and shut the fuck up, bitch. I'm so sick of it. She's got her book, Make Me a Sandwich. That's the book cover. Her book cover is her sitting cross-legged. I'm going to sit... Her book is her sitting cross-legged, make him a sandwich. Okay. You want that, huh? All right. Well, hey, listen, Daddy's home. Hey, a real man is home. I'm pulling up my sleeves. You want to call me out? Sit down and shut the fuck up, bitch. That's what a man has to say. And make me a sandwich and make it good. Turkey and provolone.
There's a reason why we have male loneliness epidemic. We do, but it's not due to women. It's people like Nick Fuentes that make it, that is self-inflicted. This is self-inflicted male loneliness.
Can you handle that? But I did. Yeah. Make him a sandwich. And then she texts me on Friday, I'm calling you out. I've had enough of you calling me out. You cannot call me out. 1, you are a woman. 2, you have not gone through a fraction of what I have gone through. You know nothing. I have been on this since 2017.
You voted for Trump. You wore the MAGA hat. You ignored all the red flags about Trump. Okay? And you knew what he was like. You didn't care. That's self-inflicted, Nick.
I was 18 years old. You want to call me out? And that's honestly, that's the epitome of it all. Before you call out anybody, how about a shred of humility? How about an ounce of self-awareness? Why don't you observe the fact that while you had a contract at Daily Wire, Turning Point USA, InfoWars, book deals, and by the way, because you're a black woman, because you are a semi-articulate black woman, you're like Obama. She don't talk with that Negro dialect. She was a black woman who did the conservative grift, and she rode that tokenism doing fucking Blexit for 10...
Yes, Nick. She played the game, Nick. A lot of these alt-writers who think like Nick Fuentes, they want to just be accepted and paid to be in the public light, but they don't understand. They don't get it. See, this is why I say racism is expensive and makes you stupid. You have to play the game, Nick. They can't have people like you, the real racist white supremacists out there, because they'll lose money. They want racism light. You're racism hardcore. Nazis, supporting Nazis, all right, saying nonsense like we were wrong about Hitler. They want to get dollars, Nick, and you are a person that is radioactive.
10 years making millions of dollars and then married into a wealthy family and then discovered there's something going on with Israel after only everybody started to notice. Now you want to call me out, the OG?
There's some stuff to know about Nick Fuentes, though. See this right here? See this? Yeah. This is Catboy.
Don't you know?
Hold on one second. Here we go. We're going to be talking about Nick Fuentes and Catboy.
Pink ribbons, that is. Calling himself Cat. Get into it. Fair use.
Just hanging out with an eccentric straight friend. Yeah, here we go.
Sorry. I'm getting really messed up with the fingers a bit, but this is from my this is from my channel, okay? So, talking about Nick Fuentes, Catboy.
Let's get into it. Fair use.
Just hanging out with an eccentric straight friend. Yeah, here we go. You guys are reading too much into it and or are homophobes. Shame on you all. There's nothing wrong with being homophobic, but the first part is definitely true.
You remind me of an ex. Look who he's hanging out with. Look who he's hanging out with. And those girls kissed him. Look how this dude, who he's hanging out with. Australian dude wearing ribbons in his head. Pink ribbons, that is. Calling himself Catboy. We'll see what else.
Mine. Whenever we went out.
Will says, how do you reconcile promoting catboys with what St. Paul says? Effeminate men go to hell, and God forbidding cross-dressing. I don't think I've ever promoted anybody. I think I hung out with a friend of mine, but I don't think I've ever promoted anything. Lucas says, debate Vaush. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about doing it. I saw that he did extend an invitation to me. The only problem is, generally speaking, I don't debate fat people. I generally don't really like to hang out with homosexuals.
See what that dude's doing? You see what he's doing? Yeah. Okay.
Really really a worst optics. You just don't get it.
It's like, imagine lollies, anime lollies, let's not.
You just don't get it. You just don't get it. You just don't get it.
Incels rise up. Thought crime. Heated. What else?
Racist incel says, do you think America's two-party system restricts our ideas from becoming mainstream? Perhaps. I don't really like to think about whenever people say two-party system, my eyes sort of glaze over because it's just like sort of a useless conversation. You know what I mean? What if America had a multi-party democracy? Probably everything would be different. I don't know what to tell you, right? You could say that you could look at other countries where they have multiple parties, but I would say that in like the United Kingdom, does the multi-party system really allow like our ideas to flourish? America First Jew says, welcome back, King. Sorry about the cringe fads on the timeline. True Knickers are ride or die. We still got your back. Hope you enjoyed your vacation. Well, thanks a lot, big guy. Yeah, I mean, look, you just got to trust the plan. I'm waiting for, look, I'll go off on the Catboy thing in a moment. I'm waiting for a good super chat. I'm waiting for a Yeetus says, how does anal sex with Catboys win the culture war? It doesn't, but that hasn't happened, so.
Gold ring around. I have the gold ring, but I'm pretty sure ours is exactly the same.
Exactly. Thomas says,
This is who Nick Fuentes hanging out with. He want to talk like being a man.
God is going to punish you for promoting neocon Middle Eastern policy. Here we go. And associating with cross-dressing degenerates. Okay, well, thank you for the money. But I'm waiting. I want to, look, we have to address the Catboy thing at some point tonight. Everybody's so concerned about it. I was waiting for a good question about it, but I might as well address it. I did a stream with Lolly Socks. He's now known as Catboy Cammy. He changed his name. I advised him to change his name because, Lolly Socks, not great optics. Frankly, I didn't put my stamp of approval on Catboy Cammy. I was like, it's not really, it's a little, Lolly Socks, it's hard to be worse than that. But, is that really better, Catboy Cammy? In any case, this guy, if you don't know who he is, he's been on the Weekly Sweat. I did a stream with him last month. He was a D-Live streamer. He would stream 24/7 on D-Live. And he would do these Filthy Frank style lifestyle streams. He was on 24/7. So he had his wall papered over with anime posters. He would go out to anime conventions and other things wearing anime dresses. And he would do IRL lifestyle content. I don't approve of everything anybody I've ever hung out with has ever done, obviously, right?
Funny? How is that funny? A grown man in a catsuit and in BDSM gear. How is that funny?
I was like, oh, okay. Because at first I had the same reaction. I'm like, here's this guy who's doing weird things. What's the deal with that? How are you based in Red Pill, but you're doing weird things? And he explained it to me.
It's like, imagine anime lollies, let's not. I could turn back time when I still felt alive. Play in the sunshine instead of watching TV inside my head. All the time.
Yo! This is who Nick Fuentes hanged out with. Whoa. Just remember, Just Pearly Things had Nick Fuentes on, who hung out with a guy like this, Catboy Cammy.
I could turn back the time. Supposed to be a subtle red pill.
Because this was fresh off the Milo thing. Everybody was up in arms about the Milo thing. Oh, he's on the Milo show. And then the Lolly Socks thing happened. And everybody gave me a hard time about that. But then it blew over. Then everyone got over it. Whatever. It was a stream. Not a big deal. And then much more recently, this Vouch guy, found it, I guess. He found it because this is like a 4-week-old stream, and everybody saw it. Everybody got over it.
Leslie went out.
By bad faith actors, by people that are willfully lying. The Vouch guy who made the video were a
So this is what, you know, the manhood of Nick Fuentes. Okay. Okay. When he talks about women, and this is Nick Fuentes, man. And like I said, you have the degenerate behavior in both the left and the right. And I just showed you what they have on the alt-right. All right, so that's it. I'm done for now. All right. That's it. So, I will see you on the next one. Okay? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the people that showed up. Peace.